Chapter 20. Wang Ying's shock after hearing that the young mistress has acknowledged Zhongxian as her master. Yarohan rushes here furiously, oblivious to the fact that Zhongxian has already accepted several students. He had just let out word that the other party would be unable to recruit a second student other than the young mistress, but in the next moment, he meets Wang Ying and the rest. He feels as though he was slapped in the face in public. His face immediately darkens. Teacher. Zhao Huaiyi also feels a burning sensation on her face and she feels tempted to find a burrow to hide in. You are all right? A short moment later, Yarohan recovers and stares in confusion at Zhongxian. That fellow yesterday was so brutal to him, so he thought that even if Zhongxian isn't reduced to a pig head, he would at the very least be crippled. So why does he seem to be fully intact, to the point of being unable to find even a single scratch on his skin? Actually, even though he said that he wanted to assess Zhongxian's standards as a teacher, his true purpose is to see his pathetic state after getting thrashed by the mysterious man. Yet, in the end, as a fighter 6 Dan Pishua realm expert, he went to assault him yet ended up getting beaten up while the one who he intended to assault isn't even wounded in the least. He feels as though he has lost greatly and he finds it unacceptable. Why wouldn't I be all right? Zhongxian knows what Yarohan is thinking, but he replies with a stoic expression. He looks towards Zhao Huaiyi and asks, "This disabled person is?" Disabled person? A peculiar expression appears on Zhao Huaiyi's face. Before she could speak, a voice interrupts her. You are the one who is disabled. Yarohan suppresses the urge to vomit blood. His eyebrows shoot upwards and he flings the sleeves of his robe. I am the butler of Bayou City Lord Residence, Yarohan. Oh, since you are disabled, you shouldn't be walking around here. Otherwise, if you were to die here, it would be difficult for me to explain. As though not hearing his words, Zhongxian gestures to the door, send off our guest and shut the door. You. Yarohan clenches his fist furiously and almost exploded on the spot. Who is he? The butler of Bayou City Lord Residence. He possesses great authority. In the Hongtian Academy, even the executive of the Education Bureau would have to give in to him. Yet, a teacher like Zhongxian dares to say that he is disabled and even tries to throw him out. How could it be possible for him to not be angry? I want to see how you are going to teach them. Putting his hands behind him, Yarohan stands upright proudly. Oh, since you know that you have to leave, make it fast. We need to maintain a silent atmosphere when teaching the students, so we don't just allow any cats and dogs in our classrooms. Zhongxian seems to be on a different frequency as him. As though hearing nothing at all, he gestures towards the exit yet again. You. Who are you calling cat and dog? The rage burns with him and blood flows out from his wounds. Yarohan trembles uncontrollably. Do you think that I wouldn't dare to kill you with a palm of mine right now? Zhao Huaiyi. Send him out so that I can solve your problem. Can't be bothered to argue with the other party. Zhongxian signals to Zhao Huaiyi. Uncle Yarrow, please leave for the moment. I am about to start lessons. Hearing those words, Zhao Huaiyi's eyes light up. I am not leaving. I want this fellow to clarify who he is talking about. Yarohan, a fighter 6 Dan Pishua realm expert, is respected wherever I go. Who dares to say that I am crippled, even trying to drive me out? Peng. Before he could finish his words, Zhao Huaiyi pushes him out. The next moment, the sight before him turns dark as the door closes on him. If he didn't dodge fast enough, he would have been smacked by the door. Young mistress. Standing outside the door, Yarohan frowns and his face twitches. If he was driven out by Zhongxian, he would surely retaliate. However, since it was the young mistress who drove him out, he wouldn't dare to lay his hands on her even if he was beaten to death. Even so, he directs all the resentment he has accumulated onto Zhongxian. He is unable to understand what capabilities the fellow possess, to be capable of deluding the young mistress to such an extent. Uncle Yarrow, I'm sorry to bother you to wait outside. We are going to start lessons. Zhao Huaiyi knows about her own problem. Her own illness must not be revealed to anyone, especially to Uncle Yarrow. If her teacher is going to help her solve her problem, she would naturally have to drive him away. Fine, young mistress. I will be waiting outside. If anything happens, call me and I will rush in immediately. Hearing the words of the young mistress, Yarohan knows that he would be unable to enter. He is on the verge of erupting, but without a choice, he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. After Yarohan leaves, only Zhongxian's 5 newly accepted students and him remain in the room. Zhongxian surveys the surrounding. Since all of you have acknowledged me as your teacher, you all would be fellow peers. Make sure to take good care of one another so as to not sully my prestige. Prestige. Hearing this word, the 5 students stare at one another. Teacher, you don't seem to have any prestige. Cough cough, even if we wanted to sully it, there is nothing there to sully. My way to teaching is slightly different from the others. I pay particular importance to cater teachings to the student's personal condition. The way to guiding everyone is different. Thus, there is nothing to compare between you all. Zhongxian seems oblivious to the expressions of his students and puts on the airs of a teacher. Right now, I will go to the little room by the side. When I call your name, enter the little room. Zhongxian's classroom isn't big, around 100 square meters. Even so, there is a partition in which the teacher is able to give specific guidance to a student. These 5 students are different from one another. If he were to guide them together as a whole, it would be troublesome and highly ineffective. Wang Ying, you are my first student. Come in. After which, Zhongxian leads the way into the small room. Yes. Given Wang Ying's obedient nature, she doesn't dare to retort and walks closely behind him. Wang Ying feels a little regretful. Yesterday, she got lost and came over to ask for directions. Yet, she was scammed into acknowledging this teacher as her mentor. Initially, she didn't know what was going on, but after thinking through it, this teacher doesn't seem to be truly capable. Other teachers are able to tell the problem with her leg through her punching routine. However, not only was this fellow unable to tell, he even bragged about being able to cure the injury on her leg. For this injury, her father even found the most famous of physicians, but it was to no avail. Even so, the man before her claims that he is able to treat her. If this isn't a scam, what could this be? Furthermore, Liu Laroche told her many things regarding this teacher. Only then did she realize that this teacher had such a radiant background. The first teacher to score a 0 in the teacher qualification examination and the weakest in terms of strength among the teachers. Why was she so unfortunate to be scammed by him and to believe his word? No wonder Big Brother said that there are many bad guys outside. When her elder brother told her that there were untrustworthy people outside, she didn't believe him. Now, looking at the teacher before her, she feels wronged, that she has been lied to. Just as she is thinking about how she should withdraw from the lessons of this teacher, that at most it would simply end with a scolding and she could find her elder brother to help her find another teacher, she hears a familiar voice sounding out. Display your battle technique once more. Zhongxian sits at the center of the room and looks over with a calm expression. The previous time, when he tried to coax Wang Ying into joining him, the Library of Heaven's Path wasn't activated yet, so he still has no idea what flaws do Wang Ying have. All right. Although Wang Ying is tempted to withdraw from the lessons, she nods her head after hesitating for a moment. Once again, her fists generate gusts of wind and soon, her punching routine came to an end. UN. Zhongxian nods his head. Although Wang Ying's character may be a little dense, her punching routine is quite satisfactory. Teacher, actually I want to. Wang Ying wavers for a moment, and just when she was about to express her intention to withdraw from Zhongxian's lesson, the young man opposite of her speaks. If I'm not wrong, your leg was probably struck by someone during a duel 2 years ago. Zhongxian says. You. How did you know? Wang Ying is taken aback. Her words jam in her mouth as her beautiful eyes widen in circles. She only talked about the injury on her leg yesterday, and not the origin of it. She didn't expect the other party to be capable of telling that it is an injury from someone's blow and even the time of the injury. She couldn't help but be shocked. There are 3 acupoints on a person's leg and individually, they govern strength, speed, and dexterity. When you battled with someone else, the other party accidentally struck the acupoint which governs strength. When this acupoint is struck, it closes, resulting in your blood to flow in reverse, thus preventing you from exerting strength on it like any other normal person. Zhongxian states calmly. That. Wang Ying's body trembles. Her face flushes completely red. For her leg, Wang Ying's father had invited all of the renowned doctors in the kingdom, including the famous Master Yuanyu. He seems to have spoken similar words, but even he was unable to identify where the acupoint which governs strength is, thus he was unable to treat her. If she wants to be treated once and for all, she has to invite a fighter 8 Dan Zhongsha realm master who possesses superior zhenqi to treat her. Otherwise, it is impossible for the treatment to succeed. Initially, she thought that this teacher who claimed that he would be able to treat her leg is just trying to coax her to come under his tutelage. Yet, she didn't expect that he would say the exact same words as what Master Yuanyu said, so how could she not be shocked? Teacher, are you able to treat me? Wang Ying couldn't resist asking. It is just a small matter. Zhongxian replies her question blandly. A small matter. Wang Ying's eyes narrow as her breathing quickens. Chapter 21. Zephyr Acupuncture. Even though she had no problem walking normally with her leg injury, she faced great difficulty in her training. It feels as though poison has soaked into her bones. In the past half-year, there doesn't seem to be a single day she spent in happiness. Precisely so, she became the current her who is a little fearful towards stranger, as well as reticent. Initially, she thought that her injury would stay with her for her entire life. Yet, she didn't expect that the Zhongshen Larosha, whom everyone thought was trash, would say that it is a small matter. She found it hard to believe what her ears are hearing. If it was a moment ago, she might have thought that Zhongshen was simply bragging. However, from the instant he pointed out the reason behind her injury, expectation starts to well up in her. The reason why I had you to come into this room individually is to treat you. All right, relax your entire body. Zhongshen retrieves a medium-sized jade box from the room and opens it gently. Within it lies numerous silver needles of different length. During the training sessions of a martial artist, it is easy for one to incur injuries. Thus, the academy prepared a kit of such in every single classroom to help to boost blood circulation of the wounded, as well as to temporarily ease the injury. Yes. Wang Ying listens to the voice of the young man which was steadfast, confident but without a trace of arrogance, and replies. Somehow, Wang Ying trusts the man before her from the depths of her heart and her tense body relaxes. Su. Sitting on his original spot without moving, he grabs a silver needle and flicks it over. A soft sound and the silver needle he infused with zhenqi shoots tautly towards Wang Ying and pierces her leg. This is Zephyr Acupuncture? Wang Ying widens her eyes as her slim body trembles yet again. Zephyr Acupuncture. It is a method which makes use of a martial artist's control over his strength to control the pathway of the silver needles to pierce the correct spots without coming into contact with the patient's body. In this way, a male physician would be able to apply acupuncture without coming into proximity to a female patient. This way, awkwardness between the two is able to be avoided. Such a method of practicing acupuncture may seem simple, but it is actually incredibly complicated. Firstly, it requires the martial artist to hold absolute control over his strength. If there is a slight imprecision, there is a high possibility that it would result in failure. Furthermore, one's eyes must be sharp. It is difficult to recognize the exact acupoints beneath the patient's clothes. If the physician were to recognize the acupuncture inaccurately, all kind of troubles could happen. Master Yuanyu has once said that one must at least attain the cultivation level of Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm to practice Zephyr Acupuncture. Has the teacher termed as trash in the academy reached such a level? Impossible. Those who have reached Dingli realm are all famous figures in the academy, such as the famous teacher Lu Zun. According to Liu Larosha, Zhongshen Larosha is only a Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm. There is still a huge way to go before he reaches 5 Dan Dingli realm. A Fighter 3 Dan Zhenqi realm is capable of executing Zephyr Acupuncture? She finds it unbelievable. Su. While she is still in a state of disbelief, the young man flicks a few more silver needle towards her. A few gusts of wind whip up and the silver needles pierce into her leg with the exact same depth. This shows that the other party has already reached a rather advanced level of his control over his strength. The silver needle pierces into the flesh of her leg. Just as Wang Ying is about to ask Zhongshen how he intends to treat her, his hand slides past the needle and the zhenqi that is contained in the needle activates and probes into her body. Ah! As the zhenqi enters her body, she feels a tingling sensation in her leg. The acupoint which was sealed previously immediately opens under the surge of the zhenqi. This is superior zhenqi. As the tingling sensation spreads across her entire body, Wang Ying clearly sees the look of the zhenqi in her body. Clear like water, deprived of any impurities. This is the quality that only superior zhenqi would possess. Superior zhenqi? That is something that can only be cultivated if one possesses a god or saint cultivation technique. In the entire Tianxian kingdom, it is unheard of for anyone to cultivate superior zhenqi. Yet, to think the lousiest teacher in the academy would possess it. It can't be that I am seeing things. Done. While she was still overwhelmed by shock, her body relaxes completely and slumps. By then, the silver needles had already been retrieved by the other party. Following which, Wang Ying feels a surge of relaxation in her leg, a comfortable sensation which she has never experienced. After her injury, although she is still able to move normally, her legs feel as though they have been plastered, plagued with a stiff sensation at all times. At this moment, wave after wave of pleasant sensation surges through her leg, as though it has broken through some shackles. Her leg feels incomparably nimble and lively. My leg. She might be slow-witted, but it is clear to see that the injury on her leg has been cured. Teacher, thank. Wang Ying's knees slacken and she kneels onto the floor. Her eyes are entirely red. For this day, she has waited for a very long time. In fact, she even felt despair at her situation. Never in her dreams would she imagine that such a stubborn illness would be cured by the academy's worst teacher. It seems that the fact is that he is a very capable person, just that he maintains a low profile. Such a thought pops into her head. If he wasn't intentionally maintaining a low profile, regardless of how his lessons are like, just the fact that he is able to cure her legs means that he is more than capable of building his reputation up in this academy. How else is it possible for him to be the last in the teacher qualification examination? With such a thought in mind, Wang Ying kneels to the floor and acknowledges Zhong Xian as her teacher from the depths of her heart. All thoughts of withdrawing from his tutelage dispel. Yuan, now that your leg injury has recovered, go out and train properly. If you have any other problems, come over and find me afterward. Zhong Xian gestures and entrusts her with a task. By the way, call Liu Yang over. Yes. Wang Ying replies excitedly before walking out of the room. I intend to withdraw from his lessons later. Are any of you all with me? In the classroom, after Liu Yang, Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya and Yuan Dao had introduced themselves to one another, Liu Yang said. To tell the truth, he feels extremely dispirited. Scoring within the top 100, there are many top teachers who are vying for him. Yet, in the end, due to the bet made between two teachers, he was lost to the worst teacher in the entire academy. The intense feeling of being wronged makes him go into a frenzy. No matter what, I have to withdraw from his lessons today. Even if it means that I have to withdraw from the school. No one will be able to halt my footsteps. I also want to withdraw from his lessons. But if Zhongxian Laoshe were to be angered, it is hard to tell what he might do. Fatty Yuan Dao couldn't resist saying. Angry? Page. So what if he is angry? What can he do? I don't want to go berserk from his misguidance. Liu Yang scoffs. Berserk? Zheng Yang looks over doubtfully. He only knows that the teacher before him scored badly for the teacher qualification examination, being the last of the lot. He has never heard of the incident of a student going berserk from his guidance. UN. Liu Yang continues, if you don't believe it, just wait and see. When Wang Ying walks out later, her face would surely be awful. She would feel like she has been scammed. I have already long heard of Zhongxian Laoshe's teaching standards. If he was able to offer proper pointers, he wouldn't have landed in such a state, being viewed in contempt by the other teachers. Jia. Just as they were speaking, the door opens and Wang Ying walks out with an excited look. UN. Liu Yang is taken aback. Initially, he thought that she would be depressed, yet contrary to his expectations, she is smiling happily. The other few students are also puzzled. That joy comes from the depths of her heart. She must have reaped some great rewards for such an expression to appear. Could it be that the teacher with such a horrible reputation could give proper pointers? To get a student to be so excited in just a single session, as though she has attained some precious treasure, probably even the famous Lu Xun Laroche isn't capable of such a feat. Liu Yang, teacher called for you to enter. Oblivious to what the others are thinking, Wang Ying informs him before going to one corner to start training. Me? Liu Yang clenches his jaw. I would like to see what pointers you are able to offer me. If you can't offer me any good pointers, I will withdraw from your lessons. Muttering silently in his heart, he walks into the room. Chapter 22. The reason behind Zhao Yue's illness. Liu Yang might have been guided by Zhongxian previously, but he doesn't believe that the latter is capable. Rather, he thought that Zhongxian simply got lucky. After all, asking someone to use a different hand to execute a punching routine doesn't involve much skill. Thus, from the depths of his heart, he still looks down on the teacher in front of him. Teacher. Walking into the room, he cups his hand and bows slightly to Zhongxian, although his tone isn't very respectful. I have seen you execute your battle techniques before. Seemingly oblivious to his disrespect, Zhongxian continues, to be able to train Soaring Flower Fist to the rookie level and Dragon Inch Fist to the expert level, not bad. What? You? How did you know that I am trained in Dragon Inch Fist? Hearing those words, Liu Yang, who was disregarding Zhongxian, almost faints from shock. Logically, due to his weak strength, he should have focused on his cultivation technique. Even if he has to learn battle technique, he should have practiced a normal battle technique such as Soaring Flower Fist instead of Dragon Inch Fist. Dragon Inch Fist, being a mortal lower-tier battle technique, is much more formidable than the Soaring Flower Fist. In order to become stronger, he hid the fact that he was practicing this punch routine from his family members. Ever since his Dragon Inch Fist reached rookie level, he has never executed it in front of anyone else. Previously, the battle technique which he showed Zhongxian was the Soaring Flower Fist. Yet, Zhongxian was able to tell that he practices the Dragon Inch Fist and that it is at the expert level. How could he tell? There is shadows of the Dragon Inch Fist in your Soaring Flower Fist. Naturally, Zhongxian can't possibly reveal that it is due to the Library of Heaven's Path. He didn't even blink when telling an outright lie. You can even tell from that. Liu Yang is still in a state of disbelief. The two skills aren't even in the slightest related to one another. Previously, he also executed the Soaring Flower Fist in front of Cao Xiong Laroche, but he wasn't able to tell that much from it. Yet, the Academy's worst teacher is able to see through it with one glance. Is this for real? While he is still holding doubts in his heart, the teacher sitting before him continues. Reaching the level of an expert, your Dragon Inch Fist holds considerable might. However, do you feel an ache under your armpits and an itch in your Genjin acupoint whenever you execute it? TL, Genjin-shoulder well acupoint, right beside the back of your neck on your shoulder. This. Taking a few steps back, Liu Yang looks as though he has seen a ghost, fear appearing within his eyes. Not only are the words of the other party correct, they are exactly spot on. It is as though he has seen him training. You. How did you know? Liu Yang couldn't help but ask with a pale face. It is very simple. You have been practicing an inappropriate battle technique. If you continue training at this rate, I can guarantee that the muscles of your entire arm will be destroyed within 3 years. Even immortals will find it hard to save you. In fact, the effects are already apparent now. Do you feel your body going stiff when you are sleeping at night, sometimes even spasming? Zhongxian questions. Liu Yang trembles. Indeed, he has such a condition. Just that, he thought it was due to overexhaustion from excessive training, so he didn't pay it much heed. Never in his dreams would imagine that it was due to him practicing the Dragon Inch Fist. Dragon Inch Fist, it is a skill which regards one's body like a dragon and emphasizes the concept of might in every inch of your body. If you had reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm and had Junchi nourish your muscles, there won't be any side effects from cultivating this battle technique. However, you are only in Jushi realm and your body is far too weak. Forcefully cultivating this battle technique will only cause your body to be injured. As time passes, the injury will only worsen. This is also the reason why, although you aren't left-handed, your left hand possesses significantly greater strength than your right hand. That is because you practiced the dragon inch fist with your right, causing great damage to it. If you don't stop now, you will become crippled. Zhong Xian warns. Teacher, save me. At this moment, Liu Yang no longer possesses the arrogance he had when he first walked in. His knees weaken and he kneels to the floor. At this moment, he understands that the teacher before him is definitely an expert, a master among expert. That is because everything Zhong Xian said fits perfectly with what is happening to him. If Zhong Xian didn't voice it out, Liu Yang wouldn't have paid much attention to it. However, now that he has stated all of it out clearly and logically, Liu Yang immediately understands that everything he said is true. In the face of such an expert, what rights does he have to remain arrogant? It is laughable that he thought that he felt wronged for acknowledging him as his teacher. Only now does he realize how fortunate he is. Before acknowledging Cao Xiong, he has also met quite a few notable teachers in the academy and displayed his battle technique before them. However, they were unable to tell that he is trained in the dragon inch fist, needless to say, seeing through the fact that his right arm is injured. First, stop training in the dragon inch fist and try your best to raise your cultivation. As for the injury that you have sustained and accumulated, I will think of an idea to solve it. Zhong Xian declares. Alright, call Zhao Ya in. Yes. Liu Yang nods his head hurriedly. Not daring to say anything further, he quickly walks out. The moment he walks out, he sees Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya, and Yuan Dao staring at him. Have you withdrawn from Zhong Xian Laosha's tutelage? Yuan Dao asks in agitation. Withdraw? Why should I withdraw? Liu Yang waves his hand and declares proudly, his face not turning red in the slightest. He who teaches me for one day is my father for life. I, Liu Yang, will not withdraw from Zhong Xian Laosha's lessons. What kind of people do you think I am? Do I look like that casual a person? I really don't know what you all are thinking, to be thinking about withdrawing all day along. Aren't you all embarrassed? Zheng Yang, Zhao Ya, and Yuan Dao. Shameless. He is too shameless. Just a moment ago, he is still going on about how determined he is to withdraw from Zhong Xian's lessons. Yet, in the blink of an eye, he changed his words entirely. Exactly how thick is his skin? That teacher is probably truly capable. Seeing the vastly different attitudes between the two when they went in and came out, Zhao Ya thinks in her mind as she pushes the door open. Actually, after hearing Uncle Yarohan's words, it isn't like she never wavered in her determination. However, the truth still stands that the other party was able to point out her illness accurately, giving her hope for a cure. After all, she is too embarrassed to speak of this illness in front of others, so it is impossible for her to reveal it to too many people. Sit down. Upon walking into the room, she sees Zhong Larosha and sits down. Teacher, you said that you can cure my illness. Zhao Ya reddens. Zhong Xian nods his head. Your illness is an easy problem. Actually, it isn't very difficult to solve Zhao Ya's problem. She isn't really sick but rather, she possesses the pure yin body, a physical body which countless women desire. The yin energy in her body is overpowering and if it is directed correctly, her cultivation would soar rapidly. However, it is a pity that no one in Bayou City noticed it and even chose a yin nature cultivation technique for her. For the other females, it is indeed quite a good manual to cultivate. However, for Zhao Ya, who possesses a pure yin body, to cultivate such a cultivation technique, it is simply worsening the situation for her. The yin energy in her body accumulates gradually over time. When she was younger, it was still undetectable. However, as her body develops, the unique traits of a female becomes apparent and she would start to find it hard to suppress her urges. If she isn't cured in time and continues on this way, she might become a being possessed by her lust and find it hard to satisfy his desires no matter how hard she tries. This is precisely the reason why such an awkward situation is occurring in her. Zhao Ya is taken aback. She didn't know that she possesses a pure yin body. In fact, even her father is oblivious to the fact. However, the part about her cultivating a pure yin cultivation technique is true. Is this really the cause? White Jade Pure Maiden skill, it is an impressive skill, but it isn't suited for you. If you want to solve this problem at its roots, you have to find another new cultivation technique, After explaining the situation, Zhongxian states, How did you know that I cultivate the white jade pure maiden skill? Zhao Ya is taken aback. This cultivation technique has been passed down in the Bayou City. Other than the Bai family, there are very few people who are aware of it. Even the butler Yarrow Han, who is at the entrance of the classroom now, isn't too sure about it. Yet, the teacher before her is able to point it out instantly. Zhao Ya is in a state of disbelief. If I am capable of seeing through illness, naturally, I would be able to see through your cultivation technique as well. Zhongxian tilts his head 45 degrees as he assumes the look of an expert whose depth cannot be seen. Cultivating a new cultivation technique can solve the problem? Then, what kind of cultivation technique should I cultivate? Suppressing the astonishment in her mind forcefully, Zhao Ya asks. You should find a cultivation technique capable of unleashing the potential of your body, and not one that accumulates yin energy. How about this? I will go to the Academy's Compendium Pavilion to take a look for you to see if there are any suitable ones for you. Zhongxian says. Thank you, teacher. Zhao Ya nods her head hurriedly. The problem hasn't been solved yet, but at the very least, she is aware of the cause now. A surge of exhilaration gushes through her heart. Zhongxian waves his hands to show that it is a small matter. Call Zhengyang in. While Zhongxian is providing pointers to his students in the room, outside the classroom, a tall youth walks over in widened strides. Elder Liu, is what you said true? As the tall youth walks, he questions the elderly following him behind. Young master, that is the truth. Young mistress has acknowledged Zhongxian as her master. Old Liu nods his head quickly. If Zhongxian was here, he would definitely be able to recognize that the old Liu here is the person who tried to withdraw Wang Ying from his lessons yesterday. The person who he calls young master should be Wang Ying's elder brother, the genius of Hongtian Academy, the disciple of an elder, Wang Dao. Zhongxian, the teacher who scored a 0 for his teacher qualification examination? What rights does he have to teach my younger sister? Damn it. If I don't teach him a lesson today to let him know the price for deceiving my younger sister, I will not call myself Wang Dao. As Wang Dao walks towards the classroom, he declares furiously. Chapter 23. Troublemaker Tianqian City is the capital of Tianqian Kingdom. To be capable of becoming one of the 4 great families of the city, the prowess of the Wang family is one to behold. Even the principal of the Hongtian Academy would have to spare some face for such a powerful family. To think that of all teachers, Wang Ying would choose to acknowledge a fellow who has scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. That is an insult. A massive insult. Even though other people might not be aware of the affairs shrouding Zhongxian, as a student of the academy, Wang Dao has heard a lot about him. He has once misguided a student, causing his cultivation to go berserk, thus sullying the reputation of the teachers. This person is the topic of discussion and target of mockery over a meal or tea with his peers. Yet, never in his imaginations would he expect his younger sister to choose to acknowledge him as her teacher. If the other students were to be informed of it, won't he become a laughingstock? The more he thinks about it, the more angry Wang Dao becomes. He walks towards the entrance of the classroom and spots Yarrow Han, who is wrapped like a mummy. I see. It is young master Wang Dao. As the butler of Bayou City Lord Residence, Yarrow Han had come into contact with many different powers. Given that Wang Dao is a talented genius and the son of the head of the Wang family, it is natural for Yarrow Han to be aware of his existence. You are. Glancing at him, Wang Dao's eyebrows shoot up. After getting beaten up so savagely, not a single hint of his original appearance remains. Even Zhao Ya finds it hard to recognize him in his current state. Needless to say, Wang Dao. I am Yarrow Han from Bayou City. Yarrow Han says. Oh, so you are Butler Yarrow. Why are you? Wang Dao is slightly taken aback. I accidentally injured myself in the midst of training. Yarrow Han explains awkwardly before changing the topic. May I ask what young master Wang Dao is here for? My younger sister has acknowledged Zhongxian as her teacher. I am here to take her back, as well as to teach the arrogant teacher a lesson. Wang Dao doesn't even try to conceal his rage. Ah, your younger sister? You mean Wang Ying Xiajie? TL, Xiajie-Miss Yarohan was driven out of the classroom right shortly after he entered it. Furthermore, his attention was focused on Zhongxian the whole time, thus, he didn't notice Wang Ying's presence. Wang Dao nods his head. I have heard that Wang Ying Xiajie's talent is in no way inferior to yours. Why would she choose him? Yarohan is puzzled. My younger sister rarely comes into contact with the outside world and has an innocent personality. That fellow has a glib tongue and I'm not sure what the fellow said, but my younger sister actually believed the nonsense he spouted. Recalling what old Liu told him, fury flares from Wang Dao. How vile. That fellow is a scourge, the scum among the teachers. Upon recalling how the young mistress of his family has fallen for his deception as well, he grits his teeth angrily. Young Master Wang Dao, you have to teach that fellow a lesson. UN. Wang Dao replies. At the same time, he stares at him doubtfully. Right, Butler Yao, why are you here? Let's not talk about it. The more I talk about it, the angrier I get. Our young mistress had also fallen for the deceitful words of Zhongxian and acknowledged him as her teacher. Yarohan scoffs. You mean Zhao Ya Xiajie? Wang Dao is taken aback. Yes. Yarohan nods his head. Then, why don't you barge in and expose that hypocritical fellow? Why are you waiting at the entrance instead? Wang Dao is bewildered. I wanted to expose that fellow, but our young mistress got agitated. I had no choice but to wait outside. Young Master Wang Dao, you came at a perfect timing. If you were to go in now, teach that shameless fellow a lesson and expose his ugly intentions, our young mistress would be able to see his true colors. Yarohan says. Rest assured, I will be exposing his fraud now. I will make sure that shameless fellow reveals his despicable self. Wang Dao grits his teeth and nods his head. Then, he kicks the door open and walks in with widened strides. On the other hand, Zhongxian has finally gone through the individual situations of his 5 students with them. There are quite a few flaws with Zhengyang's spear. Zhongxian elaborated on them slightly, causing Zhengyang's strength to soar once again, and the latter rejoiced over his improvement. On the other hand, Yuan Dao has never cultivated a proper cultivation technique or battle technique. Zhongxian took out the Academy's basic Hongtian 9 Dan formula's Wundan formula and modified it slightly before passing it to him. He didn't modify much of it, so there is still a large gap between it and the Heaven's Path divine art that he is currently cultivating with. Even so, it is still several times more effective than the original Hongtian 9 Dan formula. With just one look, Yuan Dao almost leaps up from the joy rushing through him, overjoyed to realize that he has acknowledged an accomplished teacher. Alright, I have roughly gone through the problems you all have on you. You all need to persevere in your training. Returning back to the classroom, Zhongxian gathered all 5 of his students together and was explaining the situation to them when boom, the door to the classroom is kicked open. Following which, a furious howl echoes in the room. Zhongxian, withdraw my younger sister and Zhao Ya Xiajie from your lessons right now. Otherwise, I will make you will suffer. Following which, Wang Dao rushes in and stands furiously before Zhongxian. His eyes are dyed crimson red, as though he is ready to murder someone. Big brother. Seeing her elder brother in such a state, Wang Ying is shocked and immediately rushes forward. Don't interfere in this. He pushes his younger sister to his back before staring coldly at Zhongxian. With a haughty expression, he says, Zhongxian, it is one thing if you use your nonsense to deceive others, but to think that you would dare to coax my younger sister with lies. You are seeking death. I will give you 10 seconds. If you withdraw my younger sister and Zhao Ya Xiajie from your tutelage now, I can let this slip. If not, even if you are a teacher, don't blame me for not going easy on you. Boom. With a scornful look, Wang Dao releases his full strength, revealing a very powerful aura. He had reached the level of a fighter for Dan Pigu realm. No wonder he could become a disciple of an elder. This strength is in no way weaker than an average teacher of the academy. I am conducting lessons right now, get out. Zhongxian looks at him blandly. Conducting lessons? With your standard, what could you possibly be teaching? Wang Dao mocks him coldly. Get out. You want me to get out? Who do you think you are? The only reason why I call you a teacher is out of basic respect. Look at how you are you not aware of it? You are only a lowly teacher who is still in Junshi realm. Don't act like you are a big shot before me. Even if I were to beat you up today, the most that would happen is a reprimand by the elders. What could you possibly do to me? He isn't wrong. There are quite a few disciples of the elders in the academy who are stronger than the teachers and hold esteemed positions in the academy. Even if a conflict were to break out between them and the teachers, the most they would do is to reprimand them slightly. There won't be any severe punishments. Big brother. Wang Ying's face pales. She is very aware of the fact whether the teacher before her has standards or not. When all of the expert physicians in the entire Tianxian kingdom could do nothing about her problem, he was able to solve it casually. How could such a person possibly have no standards at all? Just as he was about to stop that rash elder brother of hers, the face of her teacher darkens and his eyes narrow. Scram. To ask me to scram. He didn't expect that the trash of a teacher would get him to scram. Just as he is about to continue speaking, he catches a glimpse of the cold gaze of the other party. Looking into his eyes, Wang Dao shivers uncontrollably, as though he is a rabbit who had caught the gaze of a tiger. Under the oppression of a powerful aura, he retreats a few steps subconsciously and his legs tremble. He has only felt such sharp aura from his master. How could it possibly appear on the academy's worst teacher, a fellow who is just fighter 3 Dan Junshi realm? It took a moment before Wang Dao regains his composure. In that instant, Wang Dao's face darkens like an ant's nest as his eyes took on a deep shade of red. In his eyes, even though Zhong Xian is a teacher, he is not any more than a trash. Yet, this trash dares to shout at him and cause him to retreat out of fear. If this were to spread out, how could he possibly face any other people? How would he be able to maintain his prestige? You are courting death. Feeling humiliated, Wang Dao roars and with a flick of his hand, the sword on his waist has been drawn. Who? The sword stabs out in a flash. Pa pa pa. At fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, one would possess strength beyond 500 kilograms. Even before the sword reaches him, the continuous sound generated from the friction between the sword and the wind creates an oppressing atmosphere, as though it would be impossible to counter the attack. Zhong Larosha. Seeing her elder brother striking out with such speed, Wang Ying's face turns ghastly white. Although she is impressed by the guidance of Zhong Larosha, she is well aware of the fact that the teacher before her is only at fighter 3 Dan. He is far from a match for her brother. It is impossible for him to dodge the blow. He would definitely be injured. Frightened, she shrieks in fear and closes her eyes subconsciously. How? How could this be possible? Just when she thought that the Zhong Larosha who just resolved her problem for her would be wounded by the sword, she hears voices of disbelief from Zhao Yue and the others. She quickly opens her eyes to take a look and her eyeballs almost popped out from their sockets. She petrifies on the spot. She sees her elder brother's incomparably powerful and mighty slash getting stopped in midair, and what is stopping it is the two seemingly weak fingers of Zhongxian Larosha. To block such a powerful blow with just the pinching of 2 fingers. Chapter 24. Throw him out impossible. Wang Dao is also in a state of disbelief. Before he came, he had made sure to look into Zhongxian's strength. Back then, the information he got was that he was only fighter 3 Dan Junshi realm, a weakling. How could he possibly stop his attack with just 2 fingers? In order to achieve such a feat, not only must one possess sufficient strength, he must also be precise in his timing, control over his strength, his positioning and many other factors. If there were to be a slight discrepancy in his judgment, it is possible for his fingers to be severed and he would be severely injured. The other teachers, or perhaps even the Pishua realm elders, would be unable to achieve such a feat. Yet, a fellow who is reputed to be trash. Impossible. Coincidence. It must be a coincidence. Such a thought pops into his mind. A savage look appears on Wang Dao's face once more, and exerting strength through his both hands, he howls, "Let go." He wants to retrieve his sword that is trapped between the 2 fingers of Zhongxian. However, despite trying twice consecutively, to the point that veins are popping out on his temple and that he is about to vomit blood due to overexertion of strength, He is astonished to realize that the sword that is held between the Zhongxian's fingers seems to be firmly latched onto his fingers. No matter how much strength he exerts, it doesn't budge in any way. Could it be his true strength isn't Zhenqi realm? A peculiar thought appears in his mind. But this is impossible. It hasn't been long since the last teacher qualification examination. Everyone in the academy is aware of the fact that he only has the strength of a Zhenqi realm pinnacle. Furthermore, even if he were to break through his current realm, he would only be at Pigu realm, which is the same level as him. He wouldn't be so hard-pressed just by a mere 2 fingers of the other party. Scram. Just as Wang Dao is considering the peculiarity of the situation, a surge of might suddenly comes rushing towards him through the sword, and the impassive words of the other party echoes by his ear. Who? Before he could even react, his entire body is sent flying through the air. Boom. His head bashes through the door of the classroom. All right, let's continue on with our lessons. After casually throwing Wang Dao out, Zhongxian turns towards the rest and says blandly. Wang Ying, Zhao Ya, Liu Yang, Zheng Yang, and Yuan Dao stare at one another. The turn of events left them unable to react, and they are on the verge of exploding due to the overwhelming shock. That is a fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm expert. Not mentioning how an attack of his full strength was easily dealt with, to think he would be thrown out with such ease. Isn't this teacher of theirs the worst teacher with the lowest combat ability in the entire academy? How did he do it? Teacher has been hiding his strength. Suddenly, Zhao Ya comes to a realization as her face flushes from excitement. The only viable explanation is that the teacher before her has been concealing his true strength. If not, how could he possibly point out the problems whom no one else could discern and boost their might with just a casual pointer? The others aren't fools as well. They clench their fist in agitation. Coming to the academy to come under the tutelage of the teachers, who wouldn't hope to be under the guidance of a capable teacher? Before this, everyone thought that their lives would be miserable, judging from how they came under the tutelage of the academy's worst teacher. Only now do they know that they have won in the competition of choosing one's teachers, an overwhelming one at it. The teacher with the worst reputation in the academy is actually a true worldly expert. When their path of thoughts reaches this point, all of the excessive thoughts disappear from their minds as they nod their head vigorously. Even Liu Yang, who held doubts about Zhongxian's lessons, couldn't help but look over in enthusiasm, afraid that he would miss out a single word of his teacher. What Lu Zun Laroche and Wang Chao Laroche? All of these has been thrown to the back of their mind. Not just them, even the elders would have to kneel when compared to Zhong Laroche. To rush in like this, I hope that young master is fine. Outside the classroom, old Liu looks worriedly at Wang Dao, who had barged into the classroom furiously. Rest easy, Wang Daoxiaoye has reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm while that Zhongxian is still stuck at Zhenqi realm. Soon, he would be able to teach him a lesson and bring young mistress Wang Ying out. Xiaoye young master. Yarrow Han nods his head with a bright smile on his face. Just as he is visioning the pathetic state the shameless teacher would be in with his teeth scattered all over the floor, he suddenly hears Wang Dao's furious howl from the room. It has begun. Yarrow Han's eyes light up and the edges of his mouth creep upwards. If that Zhongxian was only the last in the entire academy, Yarrow Han wouldn't be bothered to interfere in his affairs. However, to think that he would dare to be disrespectful to the young mistress. If Zhongxian didn't execute some underhanded tricks, how could the young mistress possibly willingly acknowledge him as her teacher? If Yarrow Han were to make a move personally, he would definitely incur the ire of the young mistress, not to mention offending the Hongtian Academy at that. It would be more than ideal for Wang Dao to make a move in his stead. Hongtian Academy is located in Tianxian royal capital, the home ground of the Wang family. Even if Wang Dao were to beat up a teacher, they would definitely have the means to deal with it. Furthermore, Wang Dao is the disciple of an elder and holds an esteemed position in the academy. It is much more appropriate for him to make a move. Hehe, I would like to see how would that trash of a teacher embarrass himself. The more he thinks about it, the more delighted he gets. Yarrow Han creeps towards the doorstep, intending to open up a crack between the doors and peek through it when he hears a boom and the tightly shut doors burst open. Peng! Yarrow Han didn't even have the time to react from the sudden assault by the metal door. It slams right into his face, rattling his consciousness. In the midst of his daze, a head comes crashing into him. Catcher. The intimate encounter between his face and the head creates the crisp melody of the cracking of a bone, and the two remaining teeth that survived yesterday's attack after much difficulty dislodges valiantly. Pu. The intense pain causes Yarrow Han to convulse and a mouthful of fresh blood bursts forth. His body isn't fragile, but he had yet to recover from his injuries from the prior day. Yesterday, he had been bashed in his face, and now, he was slammed by a metal door before a head comes crashing into him right after. It is already quite a blessing for him to be alive at this point. Young master. Old Liu realizes that the one who was sent flying was his young master, and he dashes over, frightened. Damn it, damn it. Wang Dao might have knocked into the metal door, but with Yarrow Han cushioning his fall, he isn't severely injured by that encounter. Standing up and recalling how the trash caught his blow and threw him out, he feels an intense fear. Although he shouted loudly, he didn't dare to approach the classroom anymore. Young Master Wang Dao, you. Faint-headed, Yarrow Han only realizes at this point that the one who knocked into him is Wang Dao. With an intrigued expression, he struggles to stand up. Didn't you rush in to beat him up? How come you are the one who was sent flying out? I was practicing as a new type of battle technique. Wang Dao didn't dare to say that he had been thrown out by a trash, so he could only come up with something else. Battle technique. Yarrow Han's vision is still blurry from the previous impact. He hurriedly questions, "Did you expose the true face of that fellow? How did our young mistress react?" Cough cough. I didn't have the time to make a move when my younger sister pushed me out. I think, why don't we try waiting here? Wang Dao says with an embarrassed look. Just a moment ago, he was still declaring how he would make the other party suffer. Yet, the next moment, he was sent flying out. He wouldn't acknowledge such a shameful affair even if he were beaten to the verge of death. Wait. Yarrow Han scratches his head as doubts appear in his mind. However, he didn't think that he should point them out, so he chooses to change the topic instead. Wang Dao Xiaoye, I have a question to ask of you, seeing how you are also a student of Hongtian Academy. Xiaoye young master, go ahead. Seeing how Yarrow Han doesn't continue pursuing the events that transpired in the classroom, Wang Dao heaves a sigh of relief and replies. Is there any female teachers in the academy who has Bai in their name? Recalling the fellow who beat him up the previous day, Yarrow Han's anger billows. Bai. The most famous one of them all is the academy's female goddess, Shunbai Ru. I heard that Zhongshen Larosha wanted to court her as well. He is truly a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Halfway through his words, Wang Dao pauses abruptly. Before this, everyone knew that Zhongshen's abilities were subpar and his capability as a teacher was horrendous as well. With such standards, he dared to pursue the academy's female goddess Shunbai Ru. That's why everyone termed him as such. Now that Wang Dao has experienced the other party's strength firsthand and understands that he is on a different level from him, he finds it unnatural to continue saying that he is a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Shunbai Ru? Zhongshen wants to court her? Yarrow Han's eyes light up as he comes to a realization. The person whom the fellow yesterday was talking about must be her. He continues asking, other than Zhong Larosha, is there anyone else who is courting her? Shun Larosha is incredibly beautiful. The teachers who wish to court her are far too many for me to count. However, the most famous of them all is the grandson of Elder Shong Chen, Shong bin Larosha. After pondering for a moment, Wang Dao looks over in suspicion. Why is Butler Yarrow asking such a question? Oh, I am just casually asking. Yarrow Han doesn't touch any further on the topic, but a glint flashes past his eyes. I will be able to ascertain it after looking into whether this Shong Bin had gotten into a conflict with Zhongshen yesterday. If it really is him, regardless of whether he is the son of an elder, I would definitely make him suffer. When had the butler of the Bayou City Lord, a figure that rises above the others, standing beneath only an individual, suffered such a great injustice? If he doesn't seek vengeance on him, it would be hard to quell the resentment accumulating in his heart. For it, he is willing to turn into a demon. While Yarrow Han is still considering whom he should find to gather intelligence, The person in question, Shong Bin, had just finished conducting a lesson and had left his classroom when he met a young man. Cao Xiong Larosha. Chapter 25. Looking for Trouble. Shong Xiaoye. Xiaoye young master Cao Xiong says respectfully. Cao Xiong Larosha, you were looking for me? Shong Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. They might be both teachers of the academy and they often bump into one another, but their relationship is still stuck at the level of an acquaintance. Indeed. I have something which I would have to trouble Shong Xiaoye with. Cao Xiong hesitates for a moment before speaking. As long as it is something I could help you with, I will try my best. Cao Xiong replies. As the grandson of elder Shong Chen, there are quite a few teachers who come looking for him for favors every day and he has long gotten used to it. Is that so? Yesterday, I took much difficulty in admitting a student under my tutelage, but he was snatched away by another teacher through deception. Isn't Elder Shong in charge of the Education Bureau? I would like to ask if it is possible to transfer the student back to me. Cao Xiong says. Liu Yang is the best student which he spent a lot of effort to recruit. Yet, he lost him to Zhongxian due to that bet. When he returned, he got angrier and angrier the more he thought about it. Eventually, he couldn't bear it anymore and came to look for Shongbin today. Shongbin's grandfather is Elder Shong Chen, the head of the Academy's Education Bureau. Allocating a student to another teacher would be quite a simple feat for him. Transfer back. Shongbin frowns. If that student willingly came under the other person's tutelage, it would be difficult. You also know that students are much more troublesome nowadays. If they are dissatisfied with anything, they would report the incident to the royal court and the teacher union, then we will. He isn't willing. I can guarantee that. Cao Xiong hurriedly replies. Even if he isn't willing, if the other teacher is unwilling to let him go, it won't be easy as well. You know the school rules. Shongbin waves his hand. Suddenly, he raises his head and asks, just now, you said deception? May I know which teacher is the one who coaxed your student over? It is our academy's trash teacher Zhongxian. Speaking of that young man, Cao Xiong clenches his jaws and hatred could be plainly seen on his face. Zhongxian? Your student was coaxed over by him? Hearing that name once again, Shongbin's rage burns once again. If it wasn't for this fellow, he would definitely be able to get a dinner date with his goddess. A fellow who is only fighter 3 Dan and scored a 0 for him teacher qualification examination would actually dare to disregard his authority. He is seeking for death. If it wasn't for the presence of the goddess yesterday such that it was inconvenient to resort to physical means, he would have definitely beat him until he is on the verge of dying. Yes. Since he is that kind of teacher, no humans would be willing to become his student. So, I would like to trouble Shong Xiaoye to help me bring up this matter with Elder Shong and allocate my student back. Cao Xiong says carefully, afraid that the other party would refuse his request. There is no need to bring this up with Elder Shong, I will settle this matter for you now. Shongbin waves his hand majestically. You're going to settle the matter for me? The other teachers might still require the help of my grandfather for the reallocation process, but since we're talking about the useless trash Zhongxian, why do we have to go through so much trouble? We just have to go to him straight and if he refuses, we will cripple him. Shongbin gestures grandly. He might be at a loss in means to deal with other teachers, but towards the one who scored a 0 for the teacher qualification examination, it is simply too easy for him to make a stand to teach him a lesson. Disregarding his weak abilities, the crux of it is that no one in the academy would possibly come in his defense. The most important point of all is that he had intended to give Zhongxian a good thrashing to vent his frustration, but he had been vexed over the lack of a suitable justification for it. If he were to strike without a suitable justification, he would surely leave a bad impression with Shunbai Ru if she were to find out. But now, he has duped away the student of another teacher and the person in question has come over seeking for his help. He could make use of this reason to lash out at him. He didn't expect that Shongbin would be so generous. Cao Xiong is taken aback. There is no need for this. Come with me. If you're afraid, I will do it for you. The corners of Shongbin's lip curl upwards as a glint of brutality flashes across his eyes. Then, I will be thanking Shong Xiaoye in advance. Cao Xiong's eyes light up excitedly as he nods his head hurriedly. The two of them move towards Zhongxian's classroom with widened strides. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the entrance of Zhongxian's classroom to see the mummy-like Yarohan and the young master of the Wang family. Wang Dao, what are you doing here instead of training over at grandfather's? Shongbin frowns. He might be the grandson of elder Shongchen, but he is still a little off in terms of standing in comparison to Wang Dao. Shongbin Larosha, Wang Dao bows. My younger sister was duped to attend lessons here. I intend to take her back. Shongbin. Yarohan was still considering whom he should gather intelligence on Shongbin from when he heard that the young man before him is Shongbin. He hurriedly lifts his head to take a good look at him. You mean Wang Yingxiajie? Shongbin's face darkens. Coldness radiates out of his eyes as he declares that Zhongxian is really too daring. To dare to dupe even Wang Xiajie, he must be tired of living. Looks like if I don't teach him a lesson, it would be hard to appease the crowd. Xiajie young mistress indeed. Wang Dao nods his head. Since Wang Yingxiajie was duped to come under his tutelage, why don't you barge in to stop him, and chose to wait here instead? Harumphing, Shongbin looks over with a puzzled expression. That. Wang Dao dares not to admit that he was thrown out. Scratching his head, just when he is perplexed over how he should answer, Yarohan, who is beside him, says, Isn't there a rule in the academy that states that entry into a classroom is disallowed in the midst of a lesson? Thus, we could only wait outside for the lessons to end. This is. Only now does Shongbin notice the mummy-like Yarohan. This is the butler of City Lord Zhao of Baiyu City, Yarohan. Wang Dao hurriedly introduces him. So, it is Butler Yaro. I have long heard of your name. Shongbin nods his head and continues, There is such a rule in the academy that no one is allowed to barge into the classroom in the midst of a lesson. However, it doesn't matter in this case. You all can follow behind me to enter the classroom. Today, I will personally take care of the fellow who has no morals as a teacher and goes around conning others. All right. Hearing that he is going to make a move, Wang Dao's eyes light up and follows closely behind him. Yarohan hesitates for a moment before following behind them. In the classroom. Hongtian 9 Dan Formula. It might be the most basic cultivation technique of Hongtian Academy, but there are quite a few problems with it. For example, the 5 students sit in the classroom, listening attentively to Zhongxian's explanations. Despite it only being the first lecture, they are all incomparably shocked. It is as though they have consumed ginseng fruit and is getting drunk on his words. The few students present in the classroom, with the exception of Yuan Dao, have exceptional backgrounds. They might have never gone to an academy, but they had learned everything systematically. They have undergone lectures of many different teachers and even had the privilege of having fighter 5 Dan and 6 Dan experts offering them pointer. However, they had never been to such a lesson in their entire life. The lecture gives them a feeling of enlightenment. They found themselves suddenly comprehending many things that they were perplexed in the past. The breath in their body seems to be tempted to follow the methods which the teacher is describing to them, and a sensation that they would be able to break through any time now gushes through them. The lecture is simply too well said. Hearing Zhongxian's lessons, they realize that even the supposed high-level teachers pale greatly in comparison to him. This is especially so for Zhao Ya. As the daughter of a city lord, her father often deciphers cultivation techniques for her. Initially, she had always thought that her father is the best lecturer in the entire Tianqian kingdom. After all, her father's strength is clear for all to see. However, in comparison to Zhong Larosha, she feels like a frog in the well. It is laughable. There is totally no way to compare the both of them at all. Zhong Laosha's explanations are spot on. No matter how incredible the cultivation technique and battle technique is, he is able to immediately spot the flaws in it, causing one to be shocked and go into deep thoughts, unable to calm the agitation in them for a long period of time. Often, a single deciphering sentence of Zhong Larosha would send them into thoughts for half a day. After they finally comprehend it after much difficulty, they would realize that he had already been talking for a long period of time and that they had missed many of the knowledge which he had imparted then. Zhong Laosha's standards are way too high. At this moment, The 5 students finally understand how deep the foundations of battle techniques and how wide the tree of knowledge is within this young man who isn't much older than them. Previously, I laughably thought that Zhong Laroche had simply lucked out to make my strength soar instantaneously. Only now do I realize that, given his wisdom, it is a small feat for him to accomplish such greatness. There are more than 100 methods for him to make my strength increase by a fold. The previously arrogant Liu Yang couldn't help but tremble on the spot. In comparison to him, Kaohsiung Laroche. Sigh, I better not compare the two of them. They are at totally different heights. There is no way to compare the two of them. It is like they both exist in different worlds. It is fortunate that they made that bet, otherwise, how could I possibly meet such a great teacher? The 5 students are each listening attentively to the lecture in agitation, afraid that they would miss some important knowledge. Jia. The door to the classroom is pushed open and a few men walk in with large strides. Chapter 26. Enlightenment will trial Zhongxian. I didn't expect that your guts would be so inflated after not meeting for a day. Walking into the room, Shongbin surveys the surroundings and notices that the trash had managed to admit in 5 students. A savage expression flashes across his eyes as he sneers coldly, to dare to deceive Wang Ying Xiaojie, Zhao Yue Xiaojie and the others, as well as to coax the student of Kaohsiung Laroche to come under your tutelage instead. Where the hell did you find such curry? Shongbin Laroche? Kaohsiung Laroche? Seeing the few people who just barged in, Zhongxian frowns. I am in the midst of a lesson. If there's anything you want to say, please say them after the lessons. Lesson your head. Shong Xiaoye came personally over, so what the hell are you acting so high and mighty for? Given your standards, it is already a blessing for the others to not be misguided by you, yet you talk about having lessons? You little brat who don't even know the basics, how dare to pretend like you're something big before us? Kaohsiung mocks Zhongxian coldly. Since the both of them are already hostile to one another, there is no need for him to put on an act anymore. Get out. You're not welcome here. Zhongxian narrows his eyes. You are still continuing on with the act. Zhongxian, do you even remember your own surname? Shongbin laughs coldly. Quickly release Zhao Yue Xiaojie and Wang Ying Xiaojie from your lessons and reallocate Liu Yang back to Kaohsiung Laroche. If so, I might choose to back down and not teach you a lesson today. Otherwise, I'm afraid that you will have to spend this school term in a wheelchair. You want to make a move on me? Zhongxian glances over. The academy forbids teachers from fighting one another within its compounds. Is Shongbin Laroche unaware of the academy rules? The academy rules are made for humans. Against others, I would still be worried about the consequences about flouting those rules, but towards you. Hehe, do you think that there would be anyone in the academy who would stand up for a trash like you? Shongbin declares with an expression that clearly spells out that his vile intentions. I get it. Is it because I offended you with my words yesterday? That's why you are intentionally seeking trouble with me now? Aren't you afraid that Shunbai Ru Laroche would be displeased by such actions of yours? Zhongxian harumphs. Hehe, at least you are well aware of it. Since I have decided to teach you a lesson, of course, I won't be worried about you talking nonsense. Shongbin doesn't deny it, and just as he is about to gleefully step forward to teach the fellow before him a lesson, he is interrupted by another furious voice. It's you. Yarrow Han's eyes turn red. Given how Zhongxian had offended Shongbin yesterday and Shunbai Ru Laroche is involved in the incident as well, if Yarrow Han is still unable to figure out the culprit who beat him up, even he himself would suspect that he is a fool. What? Seeing Butler Yarrow rage out when he is about to punish Zhongxian, Shongbin turns around to look at him, bewildered. Do you think that it is possible for you to be unaware of what you have done? Before Shongbin could react, accompanied by a loud roar, a fist smashes violently onto his face. The heck? Shongbin could only feel everything before him turning dark. The regions around his eyes bruised up. His body staggers for a moment before falling to the ground. To dare to beat me up to such a pathetic state, I will make you suffer for it. Recalling the agony he undergone from the beating yesterday, there isn't any hesitation in Yarrow Han's blows at all. Sitting onto Shongbin's body, fist after fist come raging onto him like a storm. Butler Yarrow, everything occurred too quickly. Wang Dao and Kaohsiung is flabbergasted. Actually, there aren't the only ones who are taken aback. Even Zhao Ya, Wang Ying, and the others stare at one another in confusion. Just a moment ago, when these few people came over to find trouble with Zhong Laroche, Zhongxian's students were still quite enraged and had intended to stand up for him. Yet, before they could do anything, the other side started fighting among themselves. Isn't this incident too bizarre? This is especially so for Zhao Ya. She is well aware of the personality of Butler Yao. He is a very dignified and rational person who handles problems systematically. Otherwise, her father wouldn't have possibly allowed him to become the butler of their family. But, what happened today? Why did he start beating up Shongbin before he could finish his words? Probably, the only one who knows what is happening is Zhongxian. The reason why he intentionally mentioned that he offended Shongbin yesterday and brought up Shen by Ryu's name is to remind Butler Yarrow of the two features of his attacker yesterday. In the end, just as he intended, he made a move on Shongbin. Actually, this cannot be blamed on Butler Yarrow for being rash. After all, no matter who it is, if they were to be beaten up out of the blue for no good reason, they would definitely hold some resentment in their heart. Furthermore, he is of esteemed position and represents the image of Bayou City, so he had never suffered such injustice. To add on, he had been angered by Zhongxian multiple times these 2 days and his young mistress had been curbing him from assaulting him. Without an outlet to vent his frustration, it has been welling up in his chest. At this moment, when he has met his enemy, how could he stand it any further? Butler Yarrow, what are you doing? Feeling the fists crashing down onto him like raindrops, the confused Shongbin could only feel his vision going dark. He almost threw up a mouthful of fresh blood. What is going on? This is the first time he is meeting this Butler Yarrow and he shouldn't have offended him before, so why the heck is he so brutal? No matter how he tries to recall, he couldn't fathom how he could have possibly offended the other party. What am I doing? Stop acting ignorant here. Are you not aware of it yourself? Peng 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 peng. Butler Yarrow's fist came landing one after another without any moment of rest. Shongbin is a high-level teacher and has reached the level of Fighter 5 Dan Dingli realm. Even so, there is still a distance between him and Yarrow Han's 6 Dan Pishua realm. He isn't even a match for Yarrow Han in a normal battle, needless to say, a sudden assault. He is done in with just a single punch. Butler Yarrow, calm down, calm down. We can talk things through calmly. Only now then do Cao Xiong and Wang Dao regain their senses and they hurriedly pull the both of them apart. At this moment, Shongbin's handsome face is swollen to the point that there is no difference between it and a pig's head. Damn it! Shongbin is about to explode from anger. Initially, he had intended to teach Zhongxian a lesson but never in his dreams did he expect the Butler Yarrow from Bayou City to suddenly go insane and assault him. At this moment, all of his accumulated rage channels onto towards Butler Yarrow. No matter what personal grudges the few of you may hold among yourselves, please settle it outside the classroom. This isn't a location for you all to fight it out. If you all do not leave now and continue to interrupt my lessons, I will inform the Central Education Bureau and call them over. Zhongxian speaks up. Fine. Just you all wait. Hearing that he would inform the Central Education Bureau, Shongbin turns around and walks away. If news were to spread about his current state, how could still possibly have the face to meet others? He must not allow any teachers to see him in his current state. Shong Xiaoye. Shong Xiaoye. Xiaoye young master initially, Cao Xiong thought that it would be an easy task. With Shong Xiaoye making a move personally, he would definitely be able to get Zhongxian to return his student. However, never in his dreams did he expect to see such a situation occurring. Cao Xiong hurriedly follows behind him. Soon, the two of them disappear from view. Uncle Yarrow, what are you doing? After the two of them left, Zhao Ya walks up and looks at her Uncle Yarrow, her face flushed red from anger. This Uncle Yarrow was normal in the past, so why is he getting more and more overboard nowadays? Young mistress, Yarrow Han doesn't know how he should reply to Zhao Ya's words. After all, he can't possibly say that he had intended to sneak over to Zhongxian's dormitory in an attempt to castrate him but ended up getting bashed up by Shongbin instead, and he did a moment ago was to exact vengeance for that. Alright, I am still in the midst of the lesson. I would have to ask for the rest of you to leave. Zhongxian gestures. After hesitating for a moment, Yarrow Han, Wang Dao, and old Liu leave the classroom yet again. Damn it, damn it. After leaving Zhongxian's classroom, Songbin cries out in anger that Yarrow Han must be taught a lesson. Zhongxian as well. To dare to look at me contemptuously, he must be punished. As the grandson of an elder, his life has been smooth sailing all along. When had he ever suffered such injustice? Furthermore, the worst of it all is that he didn't even know the reason behind it. He was in the midst of talking when the other party suddenly rushed up to assault him in the blink of an eye. He finds the scenario incomprehensible. That Yarrow Han must be an accomplice of Zhongxian, otherwise, why would he make a move on Song Xiaoye? I think he must have been ordered to do so. Cao Xiong says. No doubt, that must be it. Songbin agrees. He had never offended Yarrow Han, but the other party made a move on him without any warnings. It must be due to his declaration of wanting to teach Zhongxian a lesson. Are you sure that Liu Yang did not willingly acknowledge Zhongxian as his teacher? After a while, Songbin calms down and turns around to ask. I can ascertain that he didn't do it out of his own free will. Recalling the unwillingness on Liu Yang's face when he left yesterday, Cao Xiong replies confidently. Great. If you're that sure of it, go and apply for a enlightenment will trial. Songbin says. Enlightenment will trial? This, Cao Xiong's face darkens. Enlightenment will trial is a special method to determine the allocation of a student who is vied by multiple teachers when the academy is unable to make a judgment. The student would undergo the trial of the Enlightenment Will Tower, and the Enlightenment Will Tower will reflect his true thoughts in the form of a confidence meter. If the student is proven to be unwilling to come under the tutelage of the teacher of the student will be punished. On the other hand, if it is proven that the one who applied for the Enlightenment Will trial is making a false report, he would receive an equivalent punishment. This is the final resort used when there is truly no means to determine the allocation of the student. Cao Xiong is aware of it, but he feels that things have yet to get to such an irreconcilable point. Why? Are you lying to me? Could it be that the fellow joined Zhongxian willingly? Looking at Cao Xiong's hesitant face, Songbin's face darkens even further. No, he definitely did not join willingly. I will apply now. I will make sure Zhongxian will get what he deserves. Cao Xiong nods his head. Yuan, then hurry up. Looking at his compliance, Songbin nods his head in satisfaction. When you are applying for it, make sure to raise the punishment to the maximum. This way, Zhongxian would be in for a tough time, perhaps he might even get fired. Punishment can be raised based on the applier's request. The higher the stakes are, the heavier the penalty on the side who fails the trial. All right. Cao Xiong's eyes light up with excitement as he visions the image of Zhongxian getting fired. Chapter 27, The Frenzied Wang Clan. All right, we will end the lessons here. Everyone, remember to try to comprehend the contents of this lesson when you get back. If there is anything you are unsure of, you can come over to me to clarify it. Zhongxian gestures. Yes. The 5 students answers in chorus before leaving the classroom. They didn't spend a long time immersed in the lesson, and there were even a couple of times where someone barged in to create trouble, but they still benefited greatly from it. It can even be said that if they were to persist on to try to comprehend what was taught, their cultivation would surely rise by leaps and bounds. The 5 of them leave the room excitedly. The moment Wang Ying walks out, her elder brother, Wang Dao, grabs her. Go, let's return back to our clan. Return back to our clan? Big brother, why must we return? Wang Ying is taken aback. You refused to listen to the words of your elder brother and chose to acknowledge the worst teacher in the academy as your teacher. I have already reported this matter to father and he says that he would like to talk to you personally. Wang Dao harumphs. The first time he entered the classroom, he was thrown out. The second time, he returned without accomplishing anything. Judging from the expression on his younger sister, he knows that he would be unable to convince her to change her mind. Thus, he sent old Liu back to inform the clan of the matter. He intends to get their father to persuade her. His younger sister's personality might be pure and innocent, but she still listens rather obediently to the words of their father. Father. Fright could be seen on Wang Ying's face. Their father is the current clan head of the Wang clan, Wang Hong. He is a very strict person who rarely smiles, even his children tremble before his presence. Zhongxian Laosha actually isn't the way that you all put him out to be. His lectures are very good. Wang Ying tries to retort. Say those words to father and see if he believes it. Wang Dao waves his hand and without a second word, he pulls his younger sister out of the academy. Hongtian Academy and the Wang clan are both in Tianxian City and they aren't too far apart from one another. In a short moment, the two siblings reach their destination and Wang Dao pulls Wang Ying to their father's study. Enter. The cold and strict voice of clan head Wang Hong sounds out. Yes. Wang Ying tremors from fright upon hearing that voice. Clenching her jaws, she follows closely behind her elder brother into the room. In the study, clan head Wang Hong is sitting at the utmost center of the room. The few sitting behind him are the influential elders within the clan. There is also one youth who is sitting by the side. Wang Ying recognizes the youth as the grandson of the second elder, Wang Yang. She went to the Hongtian Academy at the same time as Wang Yang. In the end, the latter managed to acknowledge the renowned Lu Zun Laosha as his teacher, whereas she acknowledged the academy's worst-reputed teacher Zhongxian. Father. The tense atmosphere in the study makes Wang Ying dare not to breathe heavily. Kneel down. Clan head Wang Hong's face darkens. The teacher plays an utmost role on one's route of cultivation. Before entering the academy, he has reminded her time and time again to acknowledge Lu Zun as her teacher. Yet, this lass. Why can't you acknowledge anyone else? Why must you choose the worst one in the whole academy? When he heard that news, he almost died from sheer anger. Putong. Wang Ying shivers as she kneels down. Do you admit your mistake? Wang Hong asks coldly. Acknowledging one's teacher should be based on an individual's free will, so I didn't want to say too much about it, but are you unaware of the standards of this Zhongxian Laosha? The one who scored the worst for the teacher qualification examination and even left a student berserk. Does someone like that have the qualifications to become your teacher? Clan head Wang Hong says with a grave expression on his face. If you were unaware of the situation and were deceived by him, I would still turn a blind eye to it, but why didn't you listen to your brother's words? I heard that your elder brother asked you to withdraw from his lessons, but you refuted him? What are you trying to do? Clan head Wang Hong's voice becomes louder and louder, to the point that the study tremors with creaking noises. Hearing the reprimand of her father, Wang Ying's face turns red before she grits her jade teeth and says, Father, Zhongxian Laosha isn't as bad as the rumors put him out to be. He is a talented teacher, just that he keeps a low profile. I want to be under his tutelage. I will not withdraw from his lessons. She benefited greatly from just a single lesson. Wang Ying knows that coming under the tutelage of Zhongxian is an opportunity for her. If she were to miss this chance, she would definitely regret it for the rest of her life. A talented teacher? A fellow who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination? Wang Ying, you should listen to the advice of the clan head, don't be deceived by that Zhongxian. You should learn from Wang Yang. He might have only gone on one lesson, but his strength has already increased by 40%. The guidance of Lu Zun Laosha is definitely top-notch in the entire academy. Hearing the words of the young lady, the other elders laugh as they shake their head. There isn't a single person in Tianxian City who is unaware of Zhongxian's reputation. Yet, you say that he is a talented teacher. What kind of joke is this? You. Hearing the words of his daughter, clan head Wang Hong is incensed. I don't care what you say, you have to withdraw from his lessons today. Otherwise, don't even think about stepping into this house ever again. I don't agree with your decision. Wang Ying may seem weak, but she has a stubborn temperament. She stands up and says indignantly, you all have never listened into Zhongxian Laosha's lessons, so what rights do you all have to say that his lessons are subpar? What rights do you all have to force me to withdraw from his lessons? We might not have listened into his lessons before, but do you think it is possible for his reputation and teacher qualification examination results to be falsified? An elder replies. Wang Ying Xiajie, Stop being stubborn. There are so many students who can testify for whether his lessons are good or not. Do you think that you are the only smart one of the bunch? Another elder states. Xiajie-young mistress, I don't know whether the teacher qualification examination results are falsified or not, but I know that he has treated my legs and gave me pointers for my cultivation. I can easily execute a might that is 1-fold greater than previously. Wang Ying declares. Treated your legs? What kind of joke is this? Even Master Yuanyu is unable to do anything about your legs. Yet, you claim that a fellow who scored 0 for the teacher qualification examination is able to treat it. Wang Ying Xiajie, even if you wish to lie in his stead, you should say something that is more believable. Everyone in the clan is aware of Wang Ying's leg injury. Hearing her words, a few of the elders scoff coldly. If you all don't believe me, I will prove it to you all. Seeing the looks of disbelief on the elders' faces, Wang Ying doesn't continue arguing and instead, walks over to the strength-measuring rock pillar and sends a kick towards it. Peng! The rock pillar shakes and a string of numbers appear. 205. What? Seeing this sight, clan head Wang Hong's eyes narrow subconsciously. The few elders who were reprimanding Wang Ying a moment ago are also taken aback as their lips tremble from shock. The few elders here had specially looked into the injury of Wang Ying's legs and had deduced that it is impossible to treat it. They concluded that it would be impossible to exert strength in them, and just the fact that she is able to walk normally is already a blessing. Yet, to wield 205 kilograms behind such legs. How? How is this possible? After kicking the pillar, Wang Ying didn't stop. She turns around and strikes on the pillar with a fist. Wang. Numbers display on the rock pillar. 120, a force of 120 kilograms behind her fist. You're still Jushi realm primary stage. I thought you were only able to hit 53 kilograms when you left yesterday. How could it be possible for you to hit 120 kilograms? Clan head Wang Hong abruptly stands up as his voice quivers in agitation. Fighter 1 Dan Jushi realm, cultivators would learn innate breathing and sensing of spirit in the air. Also, they would gain the ability to look into their body and control the flow of spirit energy in their body with their mind. They would have a strength of 50 kilograms in their primary stage, 70 kilograms in the intermediate stage, 90 kilograms in the advanced stage and 110 kilograms at the pinnacle. This is the mass that a cultivator would be able to carry with their present strength. It is normal for the strength behind their fist to be slightly lower or higher than the strength attributed to their level of cultivation. Normally, it would already be incredible to achieve an increase of 20% to 30% around that level. Even for a renowned teacher like Lu Zun, he could only induce an improvement of 40%. Despite not breaking through in her cultivation, being still in Jushi realm primary stage, she is able to hit with a force of 120 kilograms, even stronger than someone at Jushi realm pinnacle. This means that her strength enhancement is greater than a single fold. That is too formidable. I only improved to such an extent due to Zhongxian Laosha's guidance. After hitting the pillar, Wang Ying stops and declares calmly. With just a slight pointer, he is able to induce such a great improvement. Furthermore, treating your legs as well? Clan leader Wang Hong is in a state of disbelief. In a few short steps, he walks to the front of his daughter. With a single look, he immediately understands that his daughter's legs are truly cured. As the worst teacher in the entire academy, not only was he able to treat an injury Master Yuanyu is unable to cure, he was even to induce a massive improvement through a short moment of guidance. Is this for real? Can you tell us a little about the contents of the lessons he went through today? What did he talk about? After a short period of shock, clan head Wang Hong can't resist asking. All right. Today, Zhong Larosha talked about cultivation technique. However, as what he talked about was too profound, I could only remember less than a tenth of it. This is what he said. After hesitating for a moment, she mentions everything that she recalls in her mind. Gathering one's breath and nourishing it. To think that there would be such a profound theory behind a simple Jushi realm, this is too incredible. If only I had undergone such lessons back then, I wouldn't be stuck in such a realm, unable to advance ahead. This is truly the theory derived from a true master. I am enlightened. Just by repeating a few sentences, the clan head and the elders in the room seem to have gone into a daze, as though they are drunk on those words, on the verge of going frenzied. To be able to become the clan head and an elder of a prestigious clan, they all possess high levels of cultivation. Even the weakest of them are Fighter 6 Dan Pishua realm experts. After cultivating for so many years, they have a higher level of enlightenment towards cultivation and they understand much more about it. Although Wang Ying is only reciting those words without understanding the underlying theories behind them, to them, those words are no different from the voice of God. It solves many of the mysteries that they were unable to decipher before in an instant, and they feel refreshed. He is truly a master. No, not even a master is able to explain such profound and mystical theories. Clan head Wang Hong's eyes radiate a bright light and his breath quickens in agitation. Father, father. Seeing her father on the verge of going into a frenzy, Wang Ying tries to pull him back. Ah! Yinger, you must not withdraw from this Zhong Laosha's lesson by all cause. You must learn from him diligently. After clan head Wang Hong's consciousness is pulled back from a mystical realm, he looks at Wang Ying with a solemn expression and says, "But father, you just said that." She didn't expect that her father, who tends to be conservative, would change his mind so quickly, to the extent that she is unable to adapt to it on the spot. Father didn't know that Zhong Laosha would be so incredible. Oh, right. At this point, clan head Wang Hong's face has traces of excitement and anticipation on his face as he asks, "Yinger, can you ask your Zhong Laosha whether he is still accepting student? Let Wang Yang and Dao learn from him as well. Actually, why don't I become his student as well? Clan head, as the leader of the Wang clan, how could you become the student of the low-level teacher in the academy? If word were to spread, how can our Wang clan continue to uphold our dignity in Tianqian City?" Before clan head Wang Hong could finish his words, he is interrupted by the words of another elder. After reprimanding the clan head, the elder turns over with a bundle of smiles and says, "Look, I am only a normal elder and I don't represent the image of the Wang clan. If it is still unacceptable, I can even resign from my position of an elder. So, can you all help me ask him if I am able to acknowledge him as my teacher? Wang Dao, Wang Ying and Wang Yang. Clan head Wang Hong. Yinger, Dao, this is quite a close way to address one's sons and daughters, sometimes even close nephews, etc." Chapter 28. Enraged Elder Mo Zhongxian isn't aware of the events that occurred in the Wang clan. After the lesson ended, he walks towards the compendium pavilion. My cultivation might have progressed significantly, but I still don't have an in-depth understanding of battle techniques and such. I should quickly look into them. Also, I should also take a look at the 1-dan and 2-dan cultivation techniques. Otherwise, if I were to go the lessons without knowing anything, I would definitely give myself away. Zhongxian's had multiple breakthroughs in his cultivation yesterday night, causing his strength has soared significantly. However, his knowledge on battle techniques and such are severely lacking. Furthermore, he doesn't have an in-depth knowledge of the 1-dan and 2-dan cultivation techniques. For example, when he was offering pointers to Zhao Ya earlier today, he didn't know what kind of cultivation technique he should have imparted her to resolve the problem of her pure yin body. This is the ideal time to do a bit of research and prepare for the next lesson. Otherwise, if he is unable to answer the questions of his students, he would expose his ignorance. Elder Mo. Arriving at the compendium pavilion again, Elder Mo is still guarding the entrance to it. "What are you here for?" Yesterday, this fellow, in pursuit of his vanity, came here to make a mess, so Elder Mo had a bad impression of him. Seeing how he is here today again, he couldn't help but frown. "I would like to see the manuals on battle techniques." Zhongxian bows. Battle techniques. One's cultivation level is the core of one's strength. Instead of training properly with your cultivation technique, you just had to learn from the negative examples of others, pursuing vanity, enjoying the pleasures of the illusion and slacking about. Today, you don't have to think about entering the compendium pavilion. Elder Mo waves his hand to chase him away. In his opinion, Zhongxian's purpose here isn't even to read the books. Rather, he is here to flip through them to remember a few distinguished points in them to put up a knowledgeable image. The greatest taboo in the guidance of one's student is to impart incomplete knowledge. When your pail of knowledge is only half full, it is easy for one student's cultivation to go berserk through misguidance. Yesterday, Zhongxian was here twice and both times, he was only casually flipping through the manuals. Given his speed, he probably doesn't even remember the names of the book, needless to say remembering them. What else can his actions represent, other than his pursuit of vanity? The Compendium Pavilion is a location for teachers to research and study at. How can such a person be allowed entry? I pursue vanity and enjoy the pleasures of the illusion? Zhongxian blinks and confusion could be seen in his eyes. Why would he say such words? He couldn't resist asking, Elder Mo, I am really here to learn and not to create trouble. Dear. Just as he is in the midst of clarifying the situation, footsteps could be heard from his back and an elegant voice sounds out. Elder Mo, I will be going in to grab a few books. Turning around to take a look, it is the goddess teacher he met yesterday, Shunbai Ru. At this current moment, Shunbai Ru is dressed in light purple. Her slender body accompanied by her incredible figure and her flawless face brought out an exquisite and refined aura which radiates her surroundings. Oh, it is Shun Larosha. Go on in. Seeing that it is her, Elder Mo doesn't even try to stop her in the least. Not only is Shunbai Ru beautiful, she is also a reputable genius among the teachers. Despite being just 20-year-old, she has already reached Fighter 5 Dan Pinnacle, just a step away from Pishua Realm. Thank you, Elder Mo. She nods her head elegantly. Turning around, she notices Zhongxian, who is just standing by the side, and couldn't help but to be a little surprised. Enhance your knowledge? Thimpy. Elder Mo is displeased. Flipping through books non-stop, not even stopping in the midst to read through them properly, and you call it studying? Every single cultivation technique inside is incomparably precious. You can't possibly expect to enhance your knowledge by leaps and bounds just by flipping through tons of books without even jotting down note. How could you possibly study like this? Elder Mo. Just as he is about to continue explaining, Shunbai Ru smiles faintly, her smile reminiscent of the blooming of a flower, as she says, Zhong Larosha might really be here to learn. So, why don't you just let him enter? If he were to be stopped here like this, it wouldn't leave a good impression on the other teachers. Since Shun Larosha pleaded on your account, I will allow you to enter. However, I will tell you in advance first. If you want to look through the books, look through them properly. If I see you wandering around in there and putting up a show, just wait and see how I will punish you. Elder Mo gestures. You have my gratitude. Zhongxian nods his head, then cups his hand towards Shunbai Ru to show his appreciation for her help before walking into the Compendium Pavilion. Initially, Shunbai Ru thought that since she helped him, he would make use of the opportunity to strike up a conversation with her. Yet, he simply turned around to leave, leaving Shunbai Ru a little stunned. Although she is a little surprised, she didn't pay much heed to it and follows behind him into the Compendium Pavilion. It was just a casual whim of hers to help Zhongxian, there wasn't any special reason or intention behind her action. Since the other party didn't want to chat with her, she is also happy to be spared the conversation. To think that coming into the Compendium Pavilion would be so troublesome. The next time, I probably won't be able to enter anymore. Standing in front of the bookshelves, Zhongxian did not rush to flip through the books and instead, scratches his head. He didn't know why did Elder Mo stop him, but he is sure that it has something to do with his identity as the worst teacher in the academy. The identity is awkward no matter where he goes. Not just on the recruitment of students, even his colleagues despise him. The main reason why he is able to enter this time is thanks to Shunbai Ru's words. However, what about the next time? This Compendium Pavilion isn't very big anyway. If I hurry up, I might be able to browse through it all within today. This way, I won't need to enter the next time. Suddenly, a thought flashes through his mind. Since Elder Mo is determined to stop him, he should just make it so that he would not need to come anymore in the future. Given the size of the library, there are hundreds of thousands of books in here. Even if one were to spend their entire lives here, they probably wouldn't be able to finish reading through them. However, he is different. No matter what kind of books it is, as long as he flips through it, he would be able to compile an identical book of it in the library of Heaven's Path with its flaws recorded in it. If he were to move quickly, it shouldn't be impossible for him to imprint all of these books into his head within a single day. Once he succeeds, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble to come here to look for books. Begin. The moment the thought pops into his mind, Zhongxian doesn't dawdle any longer and immediately walks towards the first bookshelf. Not concerned with what books they are, he casually grabs a handful of them and voila, flips through them. Hoo. Just as he expected, the library of Heaven's Path jolts and an identical book as the one in his hands appears on the bookshelf in it. Yuan, that's the way to go. After realizing that it is possible to compile multiple books simultaneously, he walks forward and grabs several books at once and imprints them into his head concurrently. Hualala. The sound of footsteps and flipping of books echoes in the compendium pavilion. That fellow, he still dares to claim otherwise, that he isn't putting on a show in pursuit for vanity. Elder Mo, who is outside guarding the library, has been paying attention to Zhongxian from the moment he enters the library. The previous time, that fellow only flipped through a book at a time before putting it back. Although it is clear to see that he isn't really serious about it, at least it still looks acceptable. Now, he is taking dozens of books at once and playing with them, placing it back in the shelves before he could even see the titles clearly. What the heck is he doing? Is he here to read books or to choose cabbage? Furthermore, after looking at the manuals which the other party is looking through, he feels a spell of giddiness. Cultivation of wisteria basics to the relationship of a male and female, the way of amalgamating yin and yang, refining green emerald pill and the important aspects one should take note of in forging equipment. There are books on all kinds of fields. Cultivation technique, battle technique, cultivation of medical herbs, even on male-female relationship. As long as it is a book, there is nothing that this fellow would not flip through. Everyone has their own shortcomings and merits, and there are limits to a person's energy. It is impossible for one to master every single field. Thus, one has to choose properly on which book they should look through. However, this fellow flips through every single book without any hesitation. Is he sure that he isn't here to create trouble? He must be here to cause trouble. When he leaves, I will make sure to teach him a lesson. Elder Mo's face darkens as he harumphs coldly. Chapter 29. You must be sick. Yuan. Shun Bai Ru, who is the compendium pavilion as well, hears the continuous sounds of footsteps and flipping of books. Initially, she didn't think much into, but as time passed, she started to feel that something is amiss with the situation. One would need to read a book slowly to comprehend its contents. How can it be possible for anyone to flip through it so quickly? Bewildered, she couldn't resist walking over to take a look. After which, she sees Zhongxian flipping the books from the first shelf. It is very apparent to see that he isn't reading through the contents of the books, but more like looking for something. Is this the reason why Elder Mo denied him entry? After watching for a moment, she realizes that the other party doesn't have the intention to stop. Gudding, Shun Bai Ru's heart beats. Previously, the reason why she couldn't resist speaking out to help him upon seeing the difference between the current him and his previous self is because she wants him to work hard so as to be freed from his current awkward position. However, she would have never imagined that this fellow isn't here to study but to look for something. This is the compendium pavilion. Every day, there are innumerable teachers who come in, so it is impossible for there to be anything valuable hidden here. Flipping through these books so casually is almost a blasphemy to this compendium pavilion. How repulsive. Perhaps. He knew that I would be coming to the compendium pavilion today, so he intentionally waited outside then came in to make such a ruckus to capture my attention. This would only provoke my ire. The image of the young man in Shun Bai Ru's heart falls to the pits. Due to her beauty, many people have tried many ways to get on her good side, as well as to attract her attention. In her opinion, Zhongxian isn't even trying to look through the books. Rather, he is intentionally making those noises to change her opinion of him. In reality, she hates it when people make up this kind of show. After looking at her a moment longer, she ascertains her opinion. If he is truly here to browse through the books, how could he possibly be reading books of all genres? Furthermore, To be flipping through them at such rapid speed, he is probably unable to even ascertain the name of the manual, needless to say, its contents. Me. With a darkened expression on her beautiful face, she walks over to Zhongxian. Zhong Laosha, what are you doing? Reading books. Zhongxian doesn't realize that his actions have already been labeled as putting up a show and replies casually without raising his head. Reading books. Me. Shunbai Ru harumphs coldly. Coldness emanates from her jade-like face as she says, if you think that your actions are cool and would attract my attention, please retract those immature thoughts of yours. Shunbai Ru, do not fall for such petty tricks. Furthermore, your actions will only incur my irritation. Oh, all right. Zhongxian continues flipping through his books. He intends to imprint all of the manuals in the Compendium Pavilion onto the Library of Heaven's Path by today, and time is a little tight for him, so he doesn't have the effort to spare to be chatting with others. Besides, in his opinion, the other party is simply being too self-important. What business does she have to do with what he is doing? You might be truly pretty, but it isn't like I have yet to meet a beautiful woman like you. In the previous world, in the era of information, there are all kinds of beauties stored in the hard disk. Furthermore, they are skilled in blowing, pulling, playing, and singing. A cold beauty like you does not hold much interest to me. I don't have the energy to think of ways to attract your attention. Since you understand it, please leave this compendium library. Stop wasting your effort here. Seeing how the young man's head remains lowered, still putting on a show, Shunbai Ru turns and gestures him to leave. Deng 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 deng. The sound of the footsteps of the young man leaving. This is more like it. Seeing how he gives up readily, Shunbai Ru nods her head in satisfaction. Just as she is about to continue to read her book, she hears the sound of the flipping of books echoing in the library once again. Hualala, hualalala. Turning her head to take a look, she realizes that the young man had no intention to leave. You. Shunbai Ru almost explodes from anger. Are you done yet? I have already said that doing this will just incur my irritation, yet you still persist in doing so. Is there a point to it? At this point, her slim figure straightens and she walks up to Zhongxian once again, and disgust could be clearly seen in her pitch-black pupils. Did you not hear my words? The more you behave like this, the more disgusted I would be with you. You won't earn my fancy like this. Are you sick? Seeing the other party coming over to bother him again, Zhongxian is a little irritated. He stops in his actions and says, you read your own stuff while I'll read my own. If you are really bored, you can squat by a corner and draw circles. Don't bother me here. It is not like I have never met a beautiful lady in my life before. Why are you acting so haughtily? You. She didn't expect the young man to speak like this. Shunbai Ru feels her sight blurring and she almost dies from the overwhelming rage welling in her. Who is she? Hongtian Academy's #1 beauty. Blessed with great talent and looks, almost all of the teachers and students in the academy regard her as a goddess. Before her, they would act respectfully, not daring to even speak loudly for fear of offending her. Yet, you dare to say, I am sick. Even asking me to squat at a corner to draw circles. I am a lady, all right? Draw circles, draw your mum's fat head. Shunbai Ru feels a heavy and stuffy sensation on her chest that she is unable to relieve. Hualala, hualalala. Her face flushes red from anger. Just as she is about to reprimand the other party, she realizes that the young man has gone back to flipping through the books after being done with his words, not even sparing her an additional glance. Fine, fine. Continue putting on an act. See how I will reveal your true colors. Luo, Shunbai Ru grits her teeth tightly and stomps her leg. This is the first time that a man has talked to her in such a manner. Fine, aren't you putting on an act of browsing through the books now? Let's see how long you can put up with it. When you are finally unable to continue on, I will expose you and leave you embarrassed. Then, Shunbai Ru no longer bothers herself with Zhongxian and instead, angrily walks back to the manual she had looked for previously and casually takes it out. Then, sitting in a corner in the room, she starts copying it down. Initially, her mood was quite good today and she intended to study for quite a while to boost her knowledge. Yet, Never in her dreams would she expect to meet such an infuriating fellow. In the midst of copying down her notes, she sneaks glances periodically towards him. The young man still continues flipping through all of the books with the same speed, seemingly adamant to leave no book unturned. It seems that as long as it is a book of the Compendium Pavilion, he would surely flip through it once. Let's see how long you can keep up the act for. After being rebuked by Zhongxian, Shunbai Ayu no longer retains her calmness from before and she intends to make things difficult for him. As she copies down her notes slowly, she waits for the moment when the other party is unable to keep up with the act. However, what that leaves her bewildered is that the young man repeats his actions over and over again with the same astonishing speed. From the very first bookshelf, he moves from one row to another, flipping through the books, from afternoon to night, not even sparing a single minute to rest. It has already been 6 to 7 hours, but yet the fellow is still persisting on with the same motion. Even Shunbai Ayu finds it inconceivable at this point. If his aim was to attract her attention, she has already clearly told him that she detests such actions, so he should have stopped then. So, how is it possible for him to continue flipping through like this? Not to mention, for such a long period of time? Could this fellow's brain be convulsing or something? Has his cultivation went berserk and he himself became insane? Suddenly, a thought pops up in her head. She has heard that when one's cultivation goes berserk, one would start to do many abnormal actions. Could it be that flipping through books non-stop here be one of this kind of abnormal actions? She is looking at the young man with a bizarre expression as she starts to think that the young man is abnormal when she notices that Zhongxian stopping in his actions after flipping through the books in the final row. So much knowledge. After a consecutive 6 to 7 hours of hard work, he has finally imprinted all of the books in Hongtian Academy's Teacher Compendium Pavilion in the Library of Heaven's Path in his head. Through the compilation of flaws and strengths from the Library of Heaven's Path towards each individual book, he gains a certain level of understanding towards the cultivation technique, battle technique, pills, equipment forging, formations, and such. With Zhao Huai's pure yin body, she should cultivate this manual. However, before that, I have to do some preparations. After imprinting the entire Compendium Pavilion, he finally understands how he should solve the problem with Zhao Huai's physical body. He couldn't resist heaving a breath of relief. He has even found out the loopholes and incomplete portions in the previous 3 dan of his cultivation. As long as he finds some time to recultivate through them, he can correct and perfect them. Gugugu. When he is finally finished, he feels an ache in his stomach. After working for such a long period of time, his hunger pangs has already long struck, just that he was oblivious to it then. Shaking his head, he starts to walk towards the exit of the Compendium Pavilion. However, he had only taken a few steps when he sees Shunbai Ayu standing before him, looking at him with a cold gaze. To think that this woman would still be here after he has flipped through the books for 6 to 7 hours. Can't be bothered with such a self-important fellow, Zhongxian continues walking towards the exit of the Compendium Pavilion. Stop it right there. When he has just walked through the exit, he hears Elder Mo bellowing at him. At this very instant, Elder Mo's face darkens to the point that it seems like the coalescence of numerous storm clouds, ready to explode at any moment. He has tolerated this young man for very long. At this moment, there is only a thought in his head. Troublemaker, troublemaker, and troublemaker. Elder Mo. Zhongxian looks at him with a puzzled expression. Mph, Zhongxian Larosha. Elder Mo's face is cold. With an intentionally harsher tone, he says, "You came to the Compendium Pavilion not to study, but to intentionally cause trouble. From now on, the Compendium Pavilion no longer welcomes you. If you step in here once more, I will break your legs." Causing trouble? Elder Mo, where did all these come from? I have been looking through the books seriously. How did I become a troublemaker? Although he had already duplicated an identical Compendium Pavilion in his head and no longer has to come here, he still feels displeased upon hearing those words. Why is it that when other people are here, you think of them as studying, but when I am here, you think of me as a troublemaker? What kind of logic is this? Aren't you being too unreasonable? Chapter 30. Shunbai Ayu's shock reading seriously? A wind tugs on Elder Mo's beard and his face looks so red that it might explode at any moment. Not jotting down notes to decipher its content and simply flipping the books randomly. Tell me, who reads the way you do? Must reading involve jotting down notes to decipher its contents? Only now does Zhongxian understand why the other party is so mad. He is at a loss to respond. In his previous life, he was a librarian and his job scope was similar to that of Elder Mo's. However, back then, as long as one holds a borrowing pass, he would be able to enter the premises and no one would bother whether he is eating or drinking inside. As long as one doesn't kill someone or set the place on fire, he is basically free to do as he pleases. Initially, he thought that Elder No was making things difficult for him due to his previous self's astounding results at the teacher qualification examination. After such a farce, the reason ends up to be just this. These books are obtained through the relentless efforts of the Academy's predecessor and every single one of them is the product of their blood, sweat, and tears. If you are not here to study, then don't touch them. Flipping through them the way you do, what can you be doing other than creating trouble? Elder Mo flings his hands in anger. Fine, if you insist that I'm creating trouble, then just take it to be so. Zhongxian wants to explain but after thinking it through for a moment, he shakes his head and decides otherwise. The matter with the Library of Heaven's Path must not be revealed. This also means that he would be unable to explain his actions of flipping through those books frenziedly. Since he won't be here in the future anyway, there is no need for him to clarify it. Besides, his reputation is already as bad as it doesn't matter whether it is sullied further or not. At least you're willing to admit to it. Now, scram. Upon his admittance, intense loath can be seen in Elder Mo's eyes. He waves his hands, gesturing him to leave. I'll be taking my leave. Just as he is about to leave, a pleasant aroma surges into his surroundings and a figure appears before him. Blocking his path, Shunbai Yu says, "Wait a minute. What is it now?" Zhongxian looks at her helplessly. "You read your own book while I read mine. Surely I didn't bother you then." Normally, when she stops someone else, the other party would be leaping in joy. Yet, this fellow looks at her with an annoyed expression. Shunbai Yu frowns. "It isn't about that. Didn't you say that you were reading books in there? After reading for such a long period, surely you would remember some of its content." "What do you mean?" Not sure what kind of tricks this woman is playing now, Zhongxian stares at her doubtfully. "It's simple. I noticed that you read 8 methods of pill refinement. It just happens that there are some parts of it that I am unable to comprehend, so I would like to consult you on it." "Surely you won't reject my request?" Shunbai Yu asks. Actually, her plan is simple. Isn't this fellow before her putting on an act by flipping through all those books? Thus, if she questions him on the book and he is unable to answer her queries, his lie will be exposed. 8 methods of pill refinement. Zhongxian's consciousness jolts as the book appears in his mind. Indeed, he had flipped through this book previously. If there's anything you are unsure of, feel free to ask and I will answer your queries. However, I have to eat soon and don't have much time to spare, so do hurry up. Clenching her fists tightly, Shunbai Yu almost faints from anger. His tone is as though a frustrated teacher answering the questions of a student seeking clarification. Firstly, I am a beauty. Secondly, I am a high-level teacher and one of the popular teachers of the school. If I ask you a question, it is obvious that I am testing your standards. Why does it sound like I am learning from you? Everyone has a field of specialty that expertise in, so teachers in the academy often consult one another to learn from each other. However, as a fellow who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination, what makes you think that you are qualified for me to be consulting you? Suppressing the rage within her that is on the verge of erupting, Shunbai Yu grinds her teeth. Just a moment ago, I read a phrase in the book: if the herbs scatter, it would be difficult for the pill to form. If the herbs agglutinate, a yellow pill will form. I find these words a little bizarre and incomprehensible. Can Zhong Laroche clarify its meaning for me? When she says the word clarify, her teeth almost shatter from the intense force between them, and the sound of its grinding is clear to hear. As a great beauty, if it isn't to embarrass him, she would never seek guidance from a trash. You still want to ask questions despite that memory of yours. He didn't expect the other party to ask such a question. He purses his lips and replies, the phrase should be if the herbs agglutinate, it would be difficult for the pill to form. If the herbs scatter, a yellow pill will form. Its meaning is simple. When refining a pill, the moment that the herbal fluid or powder clumps together, it would be impossible to meld their medical properties together. On the other hand, if they are separated and mixed together thoroughly, the pill that would be formed will look like the yellows of an egg. After flipping through all of the books in the compendium pavilion, he is able to retrieve the correct method for the refinement of the pill with just a jolt of his consciousness. She might be able to stump others with such a question, but directing it towards him? What a joke. What's worst is that she even recited the question wrongly. Her standard is too subpar. How, you can't reply it, can you? Ah. What did you say? She thought that the young man would be unable to reply her question. Not even in her dreams would she fathom that Zhong Xian would be able to answer the question so casually. Unprepared for such a twist, Shun Bai Yu is dumbfounded, her beautiful eyes almost popping out of their sockets. She intentionally recited the phrase wrongly so that he would offer the wrong guidance. In her viewpoint, this fellow was just making up a show in the compendium pavilion, not absorbing the slightest bit of knowledge in those books at all. If she were to casually whip out the contents of a book, he would be foreign to them. Thus, she recited it inaccurately so that he would make a fool of himself. Who knew that? He would see through her inaccurate reciting and even offered the most correct answer. How? How is this possible? Could it be that this fellow has really remembered the entirety of 8 methods of pill refinement just by flipping through it? But that's impossible. He is a fellow who scored 0 in the teacher qualification examination. How could he possibly be knowledgeable in something as unconventional as pill refining? All right, do you have any other questions? Stroking his shriveled stomach, Zhong Xian hurries her. I still have more. Despite the overwhelming shock, upon seeing the impassive look on his face, Shun Bai Yu immediately recovers and poses another question. There is another phrase that I don't understand. When refining a metal in flames, never meld them when it is impure. After finishing her words, she smiles coldly as she awaits for the stumped look on the other party. The question she asked previously was on pill refinement, while this one is a dictum on weapon forging. This is a phrase she saw on an ancient book. She was unable to understand the saying ever after analyzing it for a month. In the end, she only managed to clarify it after consulting a master blacksmith. Initially, she only wanted to embarrass the other party to let him know the price of offending her. Yet, she didn't expect him to be able to explain the meaning of the words in the 8 methods of pill refinement. This provoked the competitive spirit within her, inducing her to come up with a difficult question to leave him speechless. This, standing by the side, Elder Mo was surprised when Zhong Xian was able to answer the first question. Even so, he wasn't particularly shocked. 8 methods of pill refinement is a basic manual that innumerable rookie apothecaries would have to learn, similar to what Hongtian 9 Dan formula is to cultivators. Even if one doesn't learn pill refinement, it isn't peculiar for them to know a thing or two about it. When Shun Bai Yu asked the second question, he is stunned. That's because even he found it hard to decipher the meaning of these words. When refining a metal in flames, never meld them when it is impure. Just when the two of them thought that he would be incapable of answering, Zhong Xian shakes his head and looks at Shun Bai Yu as though he is looking at an idiot. What is so hard to comprehend about these words? It just means that when forging weapons, one must first refine the respective materials in fire thoroughly to clear away all impurities. Only then can the weapon be melded together more effectively. May I trouble you to ask some harder questions? This basic knowledge can be grasped easily after reading more books. This, Shun Bai Yu's slim body jolts. She had to consult many different people before she got an answer to this question of hers. Yet, this young man managed to point out the crux of the dictum instantly. This. Not just her, even Elder Mo almost faints from astonishment. For Zhong Xian to answer a question he didn't know the answer to, could it be that he was studying seriously when he was flipping through all those books? Zhong Xian Laroche, your answer seems to be incorrect though. I remember that there is an explanation of it on discussions of miscellaneous disputes which is different from what you claim. It states that if one wants to add metal material to a pill, one would have to refine it first, otherwise it would not coagulate as one. In a state of disbelief, Elder Mo speaks up. You remembered it wrongly, there isn't such a phrase in discussions of miscellaneous disputes, neither is there anything of that sort written in it. The one you read must be discussion of miscellaneous theories written by Senior Liu Zi. There is a phrase similar to it in there, but what that is written is when refining a metal along with a pill, never mix them when it is impure, and not refining a metal in flame. Zhongxian waves his hand majestically. He isn't aware that the both of them are testing him. He truly thought that the both of them couldn't remember the contents clearly and thus, he casually continues, "Oh, this book is at the corner of the 9th row in the compendium pavilion. The words that you just said are recorded on the 49th page. As for the question Shun Larosha just asked, if you hold doubts about my explanation, you can browse through 3 arts of fire crafting left behind by Senior Du Chu. It is by the corner of the 15th bookshelf and the explanation of it is written on the 24th page. Let me take a look." Shun Bai Yu looks at him with doubtful eyes. She hurriedly rushes back into the compendium pavilion and in a short moment, she comes back with 2 books in her hand, Discussion of Miscellaneous Theories and 3 Arts of Fire Crafting. Flipping to the page that the latter said, she staggers and almost passes out on the spot. To think that it would be identical to what Zhongxian said, there is not even a single discrepancy. Not only did he remember the contents of the book, he could even point out which book it came from, its location and even the page number. Is this for real? Chapter 31, Heart of Tranquil Water. Heart of Tranquil Water. Grabbing hold of the book from Shun Bai Yu, Elder Mo takes a glance at it and his entire body trembles. This should be impossible. Alright, is there still anything you are unsure of that you would like to consult? If not, I'll be leaving. Zhongxian looks at them with puzzlement reflecting on his face. Are these 2 fellows sick? If they wanted to consult him, they should have come up with some harder questions. Yet, they chose to ask those that have been answered within the books. He didn't even have to churn his brain to derive out an answer for them. How boring. To think that one of them is a librarian and an expert while the other one is a reputable and popular teacher. Pooey. To be unable to match up to a transcender like me, they are truly lacking in knowledge. If you don't mind, I have another question that has been plaguing me. How would you interpret circulating a cycle of qi, reflecting the sight of 10,000 creations? Suppressing the disbelief in his mind, Elder Mo continues to ask. Another elder has raised this question with him a few days ago. After being stumped by it, he has been scavenging the compendium pavilion to seek an answer to it, but to no avail. Thus, he could only depart from the library dispirited. Now that the young lad before him had answered several questions, he couldn't resist bringing it up to him. You don't even know that. Zhongxian looks at him as though he is looking at an idiot. That is the utmost basics of cultivation, alright? It refers to the phenomenon where while one's qi is circulating through one's body in a complete cycle, one's mind would seem to be in a state of wandering around the entire world as they comprehend the rules behind creationism. These words are recorded in Senior by Ming's Theories of Blood and Qi. The book is on the 27th shelf and the explanation is on the 69th page. Circulating a cycle of qi, reflecting the sight of 10,000 creations, this is one of the few flawless teachings that are in the Fighter 1 Dan cultivation technique manuals, thus it left quite an impression with Zhongxian. It happens that a predecessor of Hongtian Academy had once deciphered it, so he paid additional notice to it. Why would an elder, who is the sentinel of the compendium library, need to direct such an easy question towards him? Elder Mo didn't reply to his words immediately and instead, just like Shun Bai Yu, walks into the compendium pavilion hurriedly. A short moment later, he finds the book titled Theories of Blood and Qi and flips it over to the 69th page. His body staggers. It is exactly as he described. A few days ago, that elder flipped through many different secret manuals but couldn't find an answer to his question. Never in his dreams would he have imagined that it would be recorded in an obscure book. Such an obscure book. To think that he would have read it, to the extent of even remembering the pages. Elder Mo feels the world spinning around him and everything seems so ludicrous to him in this instant. If it isn't for his consideration for his image, he might be tugging on the ends of his hair at this moment. A moment ago, he accused the other party of causing trouble in the library. In the end, not only is he reading books properly, he even memorized the contents contained within it. He feels a fiery sting on his face and fervently wishes for a burrow to appear so that he could hide in it. Is he really the same teacher who scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination? If Zhongxian could be the last with such a level of knowledge, doesn't this mean that he isn't even qualified to get 0 marks? Alright. In the future, read more books. The answers to the questions that you have posed are all recorded in them. Seeing their stunned expressions, Zhongxian lectures them with a deep tone. Then, he shakes his head and says, "If there is nothing else, I'll be leaving." After saying those words, he lifts his legs to walk away. He is simply way too hungry. If he doesn't get food anytime soon, he might really faint from starvation. Zhongxian Laosha, wait for me. Only now does Shenbai Ru recover from her shock and she swiftly catches up with Zhongxian. What else do you want? Zhongxian says in a slightly annoyed tone. Is this woman sick or something? I had already clarified your queries for you. Are you done yet? Can't you see that I am hungry and would like to eat? I have yet to eat as well. Do you want to share a meal with me? Shenbai Ru grits her teeth. She is the Aphrodite of the academy. Many men had asked her out for a meal, only to be rejected by her. She had not even accepted a single one of the innumerable meal dates from Shongbin. The shock that this young man generated in her today made her curious about him, thus she decided to ask him out so as to make use of the opportunity to see what is it that caused the changes in him. You want me to treat you? Zhongxian looks at her with a bizarre expression. What are you thinking of? If you want to eat, use your own money. How can one's skin be so thick? You had questions for me, so I answered them for you. You still expect me to treat you after that? How can you be so shameless? In his previous life, he had researched numerous action films, but even so, he is a true shut-in. He had never truly come in contact with the opposite gender before, so how could he understand the thoughts of a lady? You, seeing the gaze of the young man and hearing his words, Shenbai Ru almost shoots out a mouthful of blood and faints. I am a beautiful lady, alright? Beautiful ladies have special privileges. So many people had invited me out and I turned down every single one of them. Yet, when I ask you out, you look at me as though I am a monster. Shameless. Shameless your head. Is there anyone in the world who would term a beautiful lady as such? The lady is on the verge of going berserk. Fine, I'll treat you, okay? I'll treat you. Grinding her silver teeth together, Shenbai Ru spits out these words. You treat me? Zhongxian pauses for a moment. Due to his previous self being the worst teacher in the academy, his income is nearly negligible. As such, it isn't a bad thing to have someone treat him. Thus, he nods his head, it's fine with me, but I want a luxurious meal. I won't eat just any ordinary mantis and fried pancakes. Mantu-bun basically, he means he won't just eat street food from vendors by the street. Shenbai Ru goes berserk again. Mantu and fried pancakes? The heck with it. Let's go. She doesn't want to say anything anymore. She's afraid that if she continues talking to him, she would die from anger. The Library of Heaven's Path allows him to see through the flaws of all skills and everyone's Ming men. However, it is unable to peer into the heart of a lady. Zhongxian is oblivious to the fact that he had made Hongtian Academy's #1 beauty furious to the point of vomiting blood with just a few simple words of his. Following behind Shenbai Ru, Zhongxian walks along the pavement towards the entrance of the campus. Although the night scenery at Hongtian Academy isn't as radiant as the school in his previous life, it is still quite an exquisite sight under the illumination of the moon. Shrouded by spirit energy, the atmosphere seems exceptionally tranquil and peaceful. In his previous life, he was surrounded by hubble-bubble and smog could be found everywhere. It was very different from the serenity one could experience here. Zhongxian subconsciously immerses himself in this enchanting scenery. Walking in front, Shunbai Ryu thought that the young man following behind her would intentionally ask some questions to break the awkward silence. However, after the absence of sound for a long period of time, she couldn't resist turning around to take a look. Sneaking a glance, she is taken aback. The young man walks quietly as the moonlight illuminates his figure, the image of it reminiscent of a serene painting. This. Will of Mind 2 Dan, Heart of Tranquil Water? Her eyes narrow. Fighters don't just cultivate their zhenqi and physical body. What is even more crucial to them is their mind. The stronger one's mind is, the greater control they have over their cultivation. As a result, one's cultivation can surge even more swiftly, thus allowing them to reach greater heights in the future. That's precisely the reason why experts classified the will of mind into many different levels. Heart of Tranquil Water is the 2 Dan realm of it. The mind is harder to train than battle techniques. It is said that of the entire academy, only the principal has reached such a level. Even Shunbai Ryu, who is reputed to possess unparalleled talents and has reached Fighter 5 Dan pinnacle by the age of 20, second only to the renowned young genius by Wang Ye, is still a long way away from Will of Mind 2 Dan. Wang Ye-Prince, more is explained below. Initially, she thought that it would be too difficult for a second person to reach such a level, but never in her dreams would she dare to think that the trash teacher in the mouths of others would actually reach such height. If not for the fact that she witnessed it personally, she would never believe it. How is this possible? That is Will of Mind 2 Dan. It is a height harder to climb to than Fighter 6 Dan 7 Dan. Could it be that he isn't a trash at all, but he intentionally scored a 0 in the teacher qualification examination so as to make use of the insults and derision of others to temper his will? Suddenly, a peculiar thought pops up in her mind. In the past, she didn't have much contact with Zhongxian Laosha, so she isn't really aware of his affairs. Today, through their conversation, she realized that he is not only knowledgeable, he even reached Will of Mind 2 Dan Heart of Tranquil Water. That is a level many dream about, but never achieved in their lifetime. Looks like his teacher qualification examination results are all feigned. His true goal is to make use of the scorn of others to train his mind, so as to break into the Will of Mind 2 Dan. She finds it unbelievable that a person with such will of mind would be unable to achieve a pass in the simple teacher qualification examination. Chen-ph, continue putting on an act. See how I'll expose you. Thinking about how she was duped by this fellow, she grits her silver teeth tightly. This fellow is simply too hateful. She is resolute to look for a chance to expose him before others. Wang Ye is a title granted from the emperor to princes of the country. Chapter 32, Hongtian Pavilion Heart of Tranquil Water. Very quickly, Zhongxian's consciousness returns from a mystical spiritual world and his eyes light up. Having read so many books, it is natural that he would understand the significance of the will of mind. I am a transcender. Having experienced life and death, it is natural that my will would be stronger than most. Furthermore, I cultivate in heaven's path divine art, so my zhenqi is as pure as clear water. It is normal to reach Will of Mind 2 Dan so quickly. He is overjoyed over it, but it didn't come as a surprise. If he were to still be like the other ordinary folks when he possesses the godly tool named Library of Heaven's Path, he might as well buy a blob of tofu and commit suicide on it. Remaining silent the entire way, they soon arrive at the entrance of the academy. Hongtian Pavilion. Seeing the 2 enormous words before him, Zhongxian nods his head. There are recollections of this tavern in the memories of his previous self. Hongtian Pavilion is the most luxurious tavern in Hongtian Academy. Every single meal here would blow a hole in one's wallet. Due to his meager pay, his previous self had never been here before. Initially, he thought that Shunbai Ryu would just bring him to some casual restaurant. He never thought that she would be so generous to bring him here. As expected of a renowned tavern. The furnishings inside are majestic. Numerous night illumination pearls of the size of a fist are embedded within the walls of the tavern, making it seem as though it is still daytime. They sit down at a table beside the windows. What would you like? Shunbai Ryu gazes at the young man before her. Anything. Zhongxian gestures. Since you're the one treating, I will eat anything that you order. Never been here before, he doesn't know what dishes are good here. Since someone else is paying, he couldn't be bothered to think about it. Seeing the expression of the young man, which seems resolute to take advantage of her wealth, Shunbai Ayu feels her rage welling up. However, as this isn't a good situation for her to flare up, she can only nod her head and casually order a few dishes. Zhong Larosha, was the 0 in your teacher qualification examination intentional? After ordering, Shunbai Ayu stares at the young man before her fixedly. Intentional? Unsure of why the latter would ask such a question, Zhong Xian pauses for a moment before replying, of course not. Back then, during the period of the teacher qualification examination, he had yet to transcend over, and his previous self didn't possess the library of Heaven's Path either. Thus, it is impossible for the results to just be an act. Knowing that he would deny it, Shunbai Ayu laughs coldly in her mind. Denying it? See how I will expose your true colors. Since we're free now, I happen to have some questions that I have been unable to answer. Zhong Larosha, would you mind helping me clarify my doubts? An idea flashes through Shunbai Ayu's mind and she asks. Go ahead. Since the other party is treating him to a meal, he should answer a question or two of hers in return. Alright, if one is unable to gather spirit energy in their meridians while cultivating, Shunbai Ayu ponders for a moment before asking a question. You don't know this as well? Hearing that the question is even simpler than the ones from before, Zhong Xian stares at the other party in bewilderment before casually explaining, I have 9 methods here that can solve the problem. Soon, he finishes his explanation. 9 methods. Hearing how the young man casually throws out 9 methods at her, Shunbai Ayu's face warps. Despite being knowledgeable, she is only aware of 3 methods. Yet, the other party is able to list out 9 in a single breath. Furthermore, there is a few in the mix that are completely foreign to her. She finds the entire situation inconceivable. Then, what if one is unable to guide the flow of spirit energy into the meridians after absorbing it into one's body? Forcefully suppressing her astonishment, she asks once more. That is simple too. I have 8 ways of resolving that. Zhong Xian starts to explain. Firstly, Shunbai Ayu's slim body trembles. She had prepared herself mentally for this, but she still finds the situation insane. The methods he brought up are incredible. If these were to spread out, it would cause an uproar in the world of cultivation. Since you know so many methods, why weren't you able to list a single one of them out during the teacher qualification examination and instead scored a 0? Forcibly suppressing her shock, Shunbai Ayu asks. The 2 questions that she just raised were the exact same questions listed in the previous teacher qualification examination. Since he is aware of so many solutions, why couldn't he fill them in? Not to mention, to end up with a 0? Keng. Only now does Zhong Xian comes to a realization. So these questions were from the teacher qualification examinations. As it is part of the memories of his previous self, although he found the questions familiar, he wasn't able to pinpoint exactly where he saw them. That, just as he is stumped for an answer, the dishes that were ordered previously are placed on the table one after another. Let's eat first. Looking at the appearance of the dishes and taking in their fragrance, Zhong Xian's appetite is whetted up. Cannot be bothered with these troublesome matters, he starts to dig in. Mitch, seeing how that fellow is more delighted to see those delicacies than her, Shunbai Ayu pouts. Countless people had invited her out for a meal, using all kinds of reasons and excuses just to stay with her a moment longer. Yet, this fellow is here just for the meal itself. Shong Xiaoye, don't be angry anymore. I have applied for the Enlightenment Will trial and the Academy will bring Liu Yang over for inspection tomorrow. Zhong Xian would definitely be severely punished. As for that lunatic, Elder Shong has already lent you his beloved pet. When you meet him tomorrow, you will surely be able to give him an unforgettable lesson, so you should be overjoyed instead. Let's go, I'll treat you to a grand meal to make up for the sufferings you underwent today. After which, we will find a few girls and… Hee. Xiaoya young master 2 young men are walking along the pavement of the academy. The one leading in front has a swollen and bruised face with clear panda eyes. It is apparent to see that he had fought with someone and got hit on the face. The one following behind him has his body bent forward and is assuming a subservient attitude. The one who is speaking at the moment is the latter. There is a giant lion strutting proudly behind the two of them. Emanating a ferocious aura, it induces great pressure and fear in one before one could even approach it. They are Shongbin, who created trouble in the classroom earlier in the morning, only to be beaten up by Yarrow Han, and Cao Xiong, who is desperate to get Zhongxian into deep trouble. As for the lion behind them, it is Elder Shong Chen's beloved pet, the Tier 6 savage beast sky-shattering lion. In this world, there are apothecary, blacksmith, and many other occupations. Every single occupation is noble in its own right and well respected by the others. Of these occupations, Elder Shong Chen is a beast tamer. This occupation allows one to tame savage beasts and spirit beasts and control them, turning them into a part of one's fighting prowess. It is a formidable occupation that is noteworthy compared to the rest. This sky-shattering lion is a beast pet that Elder Shong Chen has trained. After being done in by the berserk Yarrow Han, he is aware that he is unable to match up to him in terms of strength. Thus, he approached his grandfather to borrow a beast pet for his usage. UN. Hearing those fawning words, Shongbin nods his head as he spits with an aggressive expression, that Yarrow Han must be taught a good lesson. Zhongxian as well. Of course. With this sky-shattering lion, what does Shong Xiaoye has to fear? Cao Xiong chuckles. A Tier 6 savage beast is equivalent to a Fighter 6 Dan expert, perhaps even surpassing them slightly. Even if that berserk butler Yarrow Han isn't weak, it won't be an easy feat for him to defeat the sky-shattering lion even in his top form, needless to say, in his current state. Earlier in the day, he was wrapped up like a mummy, not any better than Shong Xiaoye's current situation. Sky-shattering lion is my grandfather's beast pet. You are also aware of its wild nature, which makes it is a difficult pet to tame. Grandfather may have handed him over to me, but it would only make a move when someone attacks me. Currently, I am still incapable of ordering it around. Looking at the ferocious and mighty sky-shattering lion behind him, Shongbin feels a little helpless. Savage beasts may be strong, but they are very proud life forms. Unless one is stronger than them or has the occupation of a beast tamer, it is impossible to make them listen to one's orders willingly. That may not be necessarily so. If we entertain it with good alcohol and food, it might just listen to your command. Cao Xiong smiles. Let's hope that it'll be like that. In the midst of their strolling and chattering, a massive tavern soon appears before them. We're here. A magnificent signboard sits behind them as they walk into the tavern. Hongtian Pavilion. Chapter 33. Feigning generosity. Shong Gongzi, you're here. Come on in. Gongzi - gentleman, usually used to address for young males. Before the two men and one beast step into the tavern, a smiling middle-aged man welcomes them with a smile. The manager of Hongtian Pavilion, Wu Chou. Give us a quiet location. Cao Xiong Laroche and I want to have a good drink together, Shongbin says. Over here. Wu Chou quickly brings them to their seats. Shong Xiaoye, every time I am here, this Wu Chou would behave smugly and disregard my presence. This time, why does he? Cao Xiong couldn't resist asking. Hongtian Pavilion may just be a tavern, but the powers backing it is not one to scoff at. Otherwise, it is impossible for them to be operating their business in the compounds of Hongtian Academy at such a scale. In the past, when he was here to eat, Manager Wu would always disregard him. Yet, this time, his back is bent forward and her attitude is of utmost respect. The disparity in his attitudes makes him doubt if he is in reality. You should have heard of that there was once an elder Hong Hao in the academy, Shongbin says. Cao Xiong nods his head. Hongtian Academy is founded by Hongtian. After his death, his descendants sustained his heritage. As a result, the elders who have the surname of Hong tend to be of more esteemed standing in the academy. He has heard of this elder Hong Hao previously. He is an extremely powerful individual and has once vied for the principal seat. However, afterward, for some unknown reasons, he suddenly resigned from his position as an elder and there was no news on him anymore. After resigning as an elder, he started a tavern. He used to be best buddies with my grandfather, So Manager Wu would welcome me with respect whenever I'm here, Xiong Bin declares gleefully. So that's the reason. Cao Xiong nods his head. No wonder this Hongtian pavilion managed to grow to such a scale. It was opened by the previous elder Hong Hao. To be received by the manager of such a huge tavern, it is definitely something glorious. Yuan. Just as he is in the midst of enjoying service he has never experienced before, Cao Xiong suddenly freezes and his face gradually grows darker. What happened? Xiong Bin gazes at him in puzzlement. That should be Zhong Xian, right? How could he possibly have the qualifications to be dining here? Cao Xiong points towards a table by the window. Zhong Xian. Xiong Bin glances over as well. Upon seeing the young man, he catches sight of the figure seated together with him. His eyebrows shoot upwards and rage surges from within. Why is she together with that trash? I had extended my invitation to her multiple times, but she kept rejecting me. To think that she would be dining with someone else. Damn it. Damn it. As the grandson of an elder, a high-level teacher of the academy and a Fighter 5 Dan Dingley realm expert, he has invited Shunbai Ru for a meal multiple times, but she never agreed. Initially, he thought that she would never eat together with anyone. Never would he imagine that she would be sitting together with the renowned trash of the academy. He almost faints from anger on the spot. Slamming his table, he stands up, prepared to rush over to question her. However, he suddenly recalls Shunbai Ru's temperament and immediately shrivels back to his seat. She holds intense loath to those who disturb her. If he were to rush over to interrogate her like this, if she ends up getting provoked by his attitude and rages out at him, there would be no hope for his courtship. Xiong Xiaoye, don't be angry. I have an idea that would reveal the true colors of Zhong Xian before Shenlarosha. Furthermore, it can accentuate the majestic aura of Xiong Xiaoye. Cao Xiong is a social expert, allowing him to see through the current situation in an instant. An idea flashed through his mind and he smiles as he tries to coax Xiong Bin into action. What idea? This Zhong Xian is definitely here to fawn on Shenlarosha by treating her to a meal. However, as a low-level teacher, how much money could he possibly earn? We only have to interfere slightly to make the final bill out of his reach to shame him before her. Afterward, Xiong Xiaoye would appear and rescue her from the awkward situation. Shenlaosha's impression of Xiong Xiaoye would definitely improve. Perhaps, the flower of love might even bloom as she runs into your embrace. Cao Xiong reveals his plan. Good, let's do it your way then. Xiong Bin's eyes light up as he nods his head in satisfaction. Not only is he able to cripple his opponent, he is also able to elevate his position in Shunbai Ru's heart at the same time. This is truly a brilliant idea. Looks like this Cao Xiong isn't simply capable at teaching, he also has a way with dealing with humans. Looks like he should be properly groomed in the future. Zhong Xian doesn't know of the scheme that is being plotted against him. Eating the delicacies on the table, he nods his head in commendation. The cooking techniques here may not be as refined as the ones on Earth, but this world is rich in spirit energy, not to mention that the ingredients used in the dishes are fresh and delicious, thus providing a wholly different enjoyable eating experience. Soon, most of the dishes on the table has been cleaned up and a large portion of them was wiped clean by Zhong Xian. Shunbai Ru only nibbled on a small bit of them symbolically. Seeing how this fellow is only obsessed with eating, disregarding even her presence, Shunbai Ru curls her lips in anger. Initially, she thought that he was feigning it to attract her attention. Only now does she realize that he had never thought of her as an important matter. Regardless of whether it is the genius teachers or star teachers of the academy, they would intentionally fawn on her and offer her favors. Yet, this fellow, the worst-ranking teacher of the entire academy, treats her as though she is nothing, making her grind her silver teeth in anger. If it wasn't for her etiquette, she would have already sent both of her legs flying towards his body. The more she thinks about it, the more furious she gets. She knows that if she were to see him continue eating, she would die of anger. She turns around and calls out to the waiter, "Bill, a total of 1,280 gold coins." A waiter walks over. 1280. Shunbai Ru freezes in shock. Why is it so expensive? Even for a high-level teacher like her, She only earns 1,000 gold coin every month. Yet, to eat away a month of salary in a single meal. How could it be so expensive? She had calculated it properly while she was ordering the dishes, and the bill isn't supposed to even reach 100. How could it jump up to more than 1,000 in an instant? I'm sorry, but this bottle of wine here costs 1,200 gold coins by itself, the waiter explains. Previously, when the both of them were eating, a waiter came forth to ask if they wanted some wine. Shunbai Ryu thought that it would be fine to have some alcohol, so she nodded her head in agreement. How could she have possibly imagined that the wine would be that expensive? We were uninformed of the price of the wine you sent over. Shunbai Ryu's face looks extremely pale at this instant. No matter how foolish she could be, it is obvious that she had been had. If you are truly uninterested in it, you should have asked further about it beforehand. Since you didn't ask, we thought that you would be aware of its price, so we didn't say anything excessive. The waiter looks at her coldly. Me. Seeing the attitude of the waiter, Shunbai Ryu knows that there's no point in kicking up a fuss. Instead, it might be bad for her reputation if she were to kick up a fuss on this matter. Thus, she whips out her wallet and prepares to pay. Then, her face suddenly turns white and awkwardness exudes from her. I don't have sufficient money on me now. Why don't you keep it on my tab first? I will repay you after retrieving sufficient money. Today, she only intended to accomplish some reading at the Compendium Pavilion, so she didn't bring much money. After which, she met Zhongxian and consulted him on some matters. Due to the excessive shock then, she totally forgot about the matter, recalling it only at this moment. She only has around 100 gold coins on her, far from the required 1,000 plus. Treating someone to a meal yet not having sufficient money to foot the tab. She feels a fiery sting on her face as she fervently wishes for a burrow to appear so that she could hide inside it. Don't order food that you can't afford. Since you've ordered it, pay up. Don't even dream about eating for free here. The waiter harumphs. You. Shunbai Ryu's small face flushes in anger. What happened? At this moment, a stern voice sounds out. Shong Bin, accompanied by Cao Xiong and the sky-shattering lion, walks over proudly with widened strides. Dressed in white, his hands are behind him and his head is tilted high, his posture exuding an aura of superiority. In normal times, with his disposition and outer appearance, accompanied with the ferocious sky-shattering lion following behind him, he would have looked like an elegant and dashing gentleman. However, at this very moment, his face is swollen red and his eyes are bruised black. Looking from afar, he looks indescribably ridiculous. However, he seems oblivious to it and instead, struts about proudly. With a deep look in his eyes and a distanced aura, he walks forward and his eyes happen to chance upon Shunbai Ryu's body. Feigning shock, he says, Shunlarosha, what a coincidence. You're here as well? He turns around to look at the waiter and asks, what happened here? It is unbecoming to be making a ruckus here. Ah, so it is Shong Xiaoye. The waiter leaps in fear. He no longer puts on the pushy attitude from before and instead, reveals a careful demeanor as he explains, it's like this, they had eaten but they do not have the money to foot the bill. No money to foot the bill? Shong Bin shakes his head as a disappointed expression appears on his face. He gazes at Zhongxian and says, Zhong Larosha, it is not that I want to lecture you, but if you do not have the money, don't try to feign generosity and treat someone to a meal here. Look, you simply ended up embarrassing yourself. As the worst teacher in the academy, you might be used to it, but to bring shame to Shunlarosha as well, don't you think you have gone a bit too far? Seeing the arrogant look on the face of the fellow before him, Zhongxian pauses for a moment before turning around to look at Shunbai Ryu. Sigh, he seems to be talking about you. If you don't have sufficient money, don't feign generosity. Look, you simply ended up embarrassing yourself. You. Upon hearing Shong Bin's words, Shunbai Ryu was already infuriated. Yet, to hear Zhongxian repeating the same words again, she almost exploded from all of the accumulated fury. She lifts her head and glares at the gleeful Shong Bin, who is trying to put on an impressive image to win her favor. Luo Luo, she grinds her jade teeth together and roars, Shong Bin, I dare you to say once more who the one feigning generosity is. Chapter 34, Scammer? Not expecting that the lady would be angered, Bin is astonished. He immediately explains, Shenlarosha, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about Zhongxian. If he doesn't have the money, he shouldn't be going around treating others. Look, he ended up getting stopped by the waiter, how embarrassing is that? He is sullying the prestige of our academy. The more he spoke, the darker his goddess's face turns, to the point that it seems as though she will erupt at any moment now. Bin is bewildered by the twist in the situation. At this moment, the waiter interrupts awkwardly, Xiaoye, what? Bin glances at him with a frown. Cough cough, the one that is treating is Shenlarosha, the waiter says. He received the order to cooperate with Bin's show. Yet, he would have never expected that it would be the lady that foots the tab. Before he could report it to him, Bin had already rushed over, making it even more difficult to explain the situation to him. Shenlarosha is the one treating? Bin is horrified. His eyes widens in disbelief. Are you for real? He had been asking the goddess out to eat every day, and yet she simply dismisses his invitations. What rights does the worst teacher of the academy have to be sharing a meal with her, not to mention, having her to treat him? Why? Just because I have no money to foot the tab means I'm feigning generosity and embarrassing myself, is it? Shunbai Ayu glares at him coldly. She had been embarrassed in front of Zhongxian multiple times today, and she had been dispirited over it all this while. Yet, this fellow just had to mock her at such a moment. She feels her rage on the verge of flying out of control. No, that's not it. Bin's face pales and he looks as though he is about to cry. Only now does he understand that he had accidentally insulted his goddess in the midst of trying to fawn on her. He immediately waves his hands as though to dispel the misunderstanding. I didn't mean that, I mean to, stuttering. He is unsure of how he should explain it. However, as expected of a teacher of the academy and the grandson of an elder, having experienced and seen many things, he quickly recovers and turns to look at the waiter. Gesturing majestically, he declares, all right, Shenlaosha's debt is my debt. How much does it cost? I will pay for her. Xiaoye, you are an esteemed guest of our Hongtian pavilion. How can we accept your money? The waiter nods his head in a panic. These are the lines they had prepared beforehand so as to flaunt his background and ability before his goddess. That is great. Bin wanted to tug on the subject a while longer to showcase his superiority when Shunbai Ayu's cold voice sounds out once more, it's okay, I will pay for my expenses so that others won't claim that I am feigning generosity. At this moment, she retrieves a hairpin from her head and passes it over. This jade hairpin is worth at least 5,000 gold coins, you can verify it with a specialist. I will be leaving it in your care first. After I retrieve my money, I will be back to redeem it. This, holding the jade hairpin, the waiter is unsure of what he should do. This isn't part of the script they agreed on. Shenlarosha, you don't have to do this. I am acquainted with Manager Wu of Hongtian Pavilion, so as long as I speak up, that debt of yours don't mean anything at all. Bin hurriedly steps forward. That's your problem, what does it have to do with me? Shunbai Ayu interrupts his words. Then, she turns to look at the waiter again and says, I will be leaving first if you aren't going to be looking for a specialist to verify it. The waiter looks at Bin in a panic and the plea in his gaze is clear to see. What are you looking at me for? Bin waves his hand quickly. With a furious gaze, he continues, I don't know you at all. All right. Zhongxian didn't expect that a single meal would end in such a farce. Shaking his head, he steps forward, retrieves the jade hairpin from the waiter and passes it back to Shunbai Ayu. Why are giving this to him? This meal isn't even worth 1280 gold coins. Giving him money like this, are you that anxious to be scammed? Scammed? Hongtian Pavilion has nearly 10 years behind its establishment. Our prices are fair and we do not discriminate between our customers. There has never been a single person who had such an issue with us before, so what do you mean by those words? The moment Zhongxian words land, a middle-aged man walks over with large strides. It is the manager of Hongtian Pavilion, Wu Chou. He had talked it through with Bin and he wasn't supposed to appear initially. However, upon hearing Zhongxian talking about a scam, he couldn't hold it in anymore. The events occurring here has attracted the attention of many customers. If he doesn't show up and allow the other party to speak as his pleases instead, the reputation of the tavern would be sullied. If that happens, his boss, Elder Hong Hao, would kill him when he returns. What do I mean? Do I really have to voice it out? Zhong Xian's eyelids lift up slightly and a lazy atmosphere emanates from him. We use the finest ingredients for every single dish of our Hongtian pavilion so that they are served fresh and delicious. Our prices have also undergone the stringent checks of the academy. If you aren't able to explain yourself, regardless of the fact of whether you are a teacher of the academy or not, you don't have to dream about leaving here today. Manager Wu's face darkens. To a tavern, scamming one's customers is a very heavy sin to bear. If he doesn't settle it now, Hongtian Pavilion could possibly go out of operation when such a reputation spreads. He is truly courting death. Initially, he thought that Zhong Xian would get away scot-free once again. However, seeing Zhong Xian accuse Hongtian Pavilion of scamming its customer and offending Manager Wu, a glint flashes across Zhong Bin's eyes as he watches the situation gleefully. Manager Wu may seem like an amiable person with a good temper, but when the reputation of Hongtian Pavilion is on the line, he would be like a raging bull who doesn't know the meaning of retreat. Looks like the fellow who is the first from the last in the academy is in for a ride of misfortune. What is this fellow rambling about? Panic can be seen on Shun Bai Yu's face. For Hongtian Pavilion to be opened in Hongtian Academy at such a tremendous scale, its backing is clear to see at a single glance. Yet, you dare to accuse them of scamming their customers in public. Aren't you asking for trouble? A large tavern like this values its reputation a lot. Since you requested for me to say it, then I will spare with the formalities. Despite the Wu Chou's threat, Zhong Xian is unfazed. He walks up to the table and says, "This violet savage bear meat, going by your claims, is prepared by slaughtering a savage bear before soaking it in violet flowers for 3 days. This way, the exterior will be crispy while the interiors will be tender and the meat will be filled with fragrance. However, you all took it out for frying right after soaking it for just a day. Although the texture is still the same, the medical properties of the violet flower has yet to soak in, making it would be useless no matter how many of it one eat. As for this Honghu mandarin fish, you all advertised it as wild mandarin fishes caught in Lake Hong. However, they are actually mandarin fishes that you all have been rearing in Yeluor Bay. It is easy to differentiate between the two. As wild mandarin fishes have to battle against their natural predators, Qinghe turtle, the fin of the tail of Honghu mandarin fishes tend to be tougher than those that are reared, and its tail would be significantly thicker as well. One only has to slightly look into the matter to know whether what I'm saying is true. As for this clear sautéed nestled heart herb, the ingredients used isn't even nestled heart herb but bitter heart herb. These two plants are actually one of a kind, just that they are cultivated under different conditions, thus the difference in their names. Nestled heart grass grows beside the nests of savage beasts and is taken care by them. Their stems would tend to be thicker and their nutrition value is significantly higher as well. Bitter heart herb grows in the wilderness and is extremely cheap. Its stem is thin and its nutrition value is lower by a huge chunk. For the same plate of vegetable, the difference in their value is almost tenfold. Completely different in comparison. Listing it as nestled heart herb but cooking the dish using bitter heart herb, if this isn't a scam, what else could it be? Casually pointing to any dish, he is able to clearly point out the origin and flaws in it. Upon hearing those words, Manager Wu's earlier aggression fades as his face pales. As the manager of Hongtian Pavilion, he isn't just involved in attending to the customers, he is also in charge of the affairs in the kitchen. Naturally, he is aware of the authenticity of the Zhong Xian's words. Not only is he not speaking nonsense, his words are completely true. The boss isn't aware of these things. For his own profit, Wu Chou discreetly got someone to switch them. Not even professional gourmets could tell the differences between Honghu mandarin fish, nestled heart herb and their imitation, thus proving that the substitutes for these two are identical. How could this young man tell? Furthermore, for him to be completely spot on. Damn it. We specially came here from afar to try the authentic nestled heart herb, to think that it would be an imitation. Me too. I've heard that the Honghu Mandarin fish is delicious, authentic, and fragrant, thus I specially made the journey here. How dare you all try to fool us? Refund, refund. To think that the #1 tavern of Hongtian Academy would resort to using imitations, not to mention that I am a regular customer, I would have never imagined that it was all a scam. Zhong Xian's words are unhurried and rational with sufficient evidence to back up his claims. The crowd who was watching the show immediately bursts into an uproar. Hongtian Pavilion could be considered a reputable tavern, even in the entire Tianxian kingdom. Many of its specialties has attracted innumerable experts to make the journey. They would have never imagined that these were all fake. Chapter 35. What is happening you? Nonsense. Seeing the crowd breaking out into a commotion, cold sweat drips down from Manager Wu's forehead. He grits his teeth and bellows. He must not admit to it now. The moment he does, Hongtian Pavilion's reputation will be ruined, and his future will be gone with it as well. If only he knew that this teacher is a gourmet, he would have never agreed to Shang Bin's request even if he was beaten to death. You are claiming that what I said was nonsense. Zhong Xian glances at him. Indeed. You said that these dishes are imitations, but you don't have evidence to back up your claim. Without evidence, your words are nonsense. Do you think that I wouldn't dare to have you arrested for the crime of slander? Manager Wu says ferociously. Evidence. You want evidence. Fine. Seeing how this fellow is adamant to push on, Zhong Xian shakes his head. Initially, he didn't want to pursue the matter any further. After all, Shunbai Ru is the one treating, so it doesn't matter to him how much the dishes cost. However, who knew that this fellow would stubbornly claim that he was slandering them? Since that is the case, Zhong Xian is resolute to prevent him from getting away scot-free. I have already provided the evidence of the few dishes before. Everyone can inspect their food carefully based on the unique traits that I have just brought up. Of course, it's okay if he is reluctant to acknowledge it. After all, even if you all know all these, some gourmets will still find it difficult to distinguish between them, needless to say, the rest of you. However, Zhong Xian surveys the surroundings before casually lifting up the most expensive bottle of wine on the table up and declares, everyone would be able to easily discern the authenticity of this bottle of wine. Discern its authenticity? Drunk Immortal is the specialty of Hongtian Pavilion. This is a fact known by everyone. Many people specially made the trip here just for the wine. Are you trying to say that the wine is fake as well? A customer can't resist asking. Indeed, Drunk Immortal is the trademark of Hongtian Pavilion, so surely it can't be faked. If this turns out to be an imitation as well, I doubt that there can be anything real in here. Another customer speaks up. The wine that was offered to Zhong Xian's table previously is called Drunk Immortal and its sale is exclusive to Hongtian Pavilion. The wine is rich, delicious, and has an exquisite fragrance. This wine played a crucial role to the current reputation and scale of Hongtian Pavilion. If even this wine turns out to be an imitation, that would be going way overboard. I've already said that it would be easy to discern it. As though he had expected the crowd to doubt his words, Zhong Xian simply responds with a faint smile and raises the bottle. The words, Drunk Immortal, are written on the cover of the bottle. If this is truly the Drunk Immortal from Hundredwell Brewery, it would indeed be worth 1,200 gold coins, but it is a pity that the bottle is filled with Green Crag Brew from Purple Bamboo Gazebo. These two wines are similar in terms of their scent and their texture. However, the former is brewed using the valuable and rare-rooted earthgrass and green cicada heartleaf and it nourishes the body when drunk. On the other hand, if one drinks too much of the green crag brew, the venom from the fallen floral grass would attack one's heart and lungs. Over time, the function of one's organs will deteriorate, causing one's cultivation to fall rapidly, thus ending their lives tragically. Using green crag brew to imitate fallen immortal? I've heard of green crag brew. If I remember correctly, its taste is similar with fallen immortal. I've always trusted in the quality of the goods of Hongtian Pavilion. I would have never imagined that they would fool their customers like that. This is a fraud. I will be reporting this to the academy so that an investigation will be conducted. The customers who are watching the commotion, upon hearing that they have been scammed, cry out indignantly. Just because you said that it is green crag brew, doesn't mean that it would necessarily be it. Where's your evidence? Manager Wu squeezes out these words between his gritted teeth. Glancing at him, Zhongxian replies calmly, wine can be ignited with fire. I haven't touched much of the alcohol in it, so you can ignite this one. The true fallen immortal should exude an alluring fragrance, similar to lilies and musk. On the other hand, for green crag brew, a charred odor would be released. All those who have noses should be able to discern between the two easily. Manager Wu's body goes stiff. The other party's words are completely accurate. However, this method of distinguishing between the two isn't very well known. Only the makers of green crag brew and their vendors are aware of it. Even Wu Cho himself only heard of it coincidentally. How could this fellow know of this method as well? Actually, the wine given to other customers are all true fallen immortal. After all, this is the trademark specialty of the tavern. After hearing Shong Bin's plan, he intentionally passed this fake wine over to the young man, thinking that he would be unable to discern between the two so that he would be able to make an earning out of this. In the end, not only is the other party aware of it, he is even able to state the method to distinguish between the two clearly. If Zhongxian were to prove himself right, it would be difficult to explain to everyone that what they're drinking is the authentic fallen immortal. Why? You don't dare to give it a try? Seeing the look of panic on the other person's face, Zhongxian smiles faintly. He casually turns the wine bottle over, allowing the wine to spill onto the floor. Then, he takes out an ignitable paper roll and snaps his fingers. Xiong xiong. When the wine on the floor comes into contact with the flames, it lights up and instantaneously, a stinging odor assaults the noses of the crowd, leaving them faint-headed. How pungent. This was what we were drinking? Hongtian Pavilion really doesn't respect their customers. For it to be so pungent, it must be poisonous. Refund, refund. I've been drinking your wine here for 3 years. Not only do I want you to return it all back to me, I want additional compensation as well. The entire tavern explodes into an uproar. Everyone rushes forward. What? What is happening? Cao Xiong and Shong Bin feels like they are going mad by the sudden turn of events. They had specially set up this ploy to humiliate Zhongxian. In the end, not only was he not humiliated, he even managed to stand out instead. Instead, they were shamed like clowns. What is happening? What is happening your head? By the side, Manager Wu had just barely kept his emotions in check, but upon hearing those words, he loses control and kicks them both. Peng. Peng. He is a Fighter 6 Dan Pishua realm expert. Before the two of them could even react, the sight before them goes dark and they crash onto the ground. A giant footprint is left on each of their faces. It is no wonder that Manager Wu would go berserk. If it weren't for these two fellows, such an incident would not have occurred. He can already foresee that not only will his career come to an end, he would also have to face the rage of Elder Hong Hao. After this incident, Hongtian Pavilion's reputation would definitely go into the gutters and their business would no longer be as prosperous as before. The cause of this entire incident is him accepting the request of these two fellows to teach the lad, who is last in the teacher qualification examination, a lesson. How can it be possible for this lad to be the last? Even the first in the examinations can't possibly be so incredible. If only he knew in advance that this master had such powerful eyes of discernment. Not only would he have not caused Zhongxian any trouble, he would have been praying for him to not cause him any. Damn it. Looks like there isn't anyone free to collect money from us right now, let's go. Seeing how the situation has descended into chaos, Zhongxian signals to Shunbai Yu, who is still in a state of daze, and walks out of the tavern. Now that the problem has been settled, staying here would just result in more troubles. Thus, it would wiser for them to simply leave. Shunbai Yu hurriedly catches up to him. Seeing the young man in front her eyes are filled with complex emotions. All along, she thought that he is a trash, an ignorant fellow who is the shame of the teaching community. After half a day of interaction, she realized that if he is a trash, then what is she? Doesn't it mean that she is nothing at all? Gritting her teeth, she walks up. With disbelief still reflecting within her beautiful pitch-black eyes, she asks, "You seem to be quite knowledgeable about food. Could it be that you're a gourmet?" Chapter 36. Gourmet. There are many occupations in this world and gourmet is one of them. Gourmets are often born sensitive to taste, and their ability to discern flavors far exceeds ordinary humans. Their cultivation may not necessarily be high, but there are some hotels or taverns that would hire them at high salaries so as to ascertain the taste and effects of their ingredients. However, this occupation is one of the least esteemed ones and can only be considered one of the lower 9 paths. There are more than several thousands of occupations in the world. To better classify them, they are split into the upper 9 paths, middle 9 paths and lower 9 paths: apothecary, blacksmith, formation master, and similar jobs which brings about benefits to battle techniques and one's cultivation are considered as the conventional upper 9 paths. On the other hand, gourmet could only be considered as an unorthodox occupation, thus being classified under the lower 9 paths, going by Shun by Ryu's opinion. Given how the young man is capable of pointing out the flaws in those dishes and wine, he had to be a gourmet. You can take it so. Zhongxian doesn't explain. The Library of Heaven's path does more than reflecting one's cultivation. As long as he has tried a dish, its flaws would be reflected in the library. With this, it is a simple task for him to take care of a small manager Wu. Thank you for your help today. Seeing the other party admit to it, Shun by Ryu thanks him. If it wasn't for this young man's ability to discern delicacies, it would be truly embarrassing for her today. It's nothing. Zhongxian waves his hand. You resolved the problem just a moment ago, so it can't be considered as my treat. I'll treat you again next time, Shun by Ryu says. Treat me again? Zhongxian ponders over it and shakes his head. Better not, I still treasure my life. Eating with a beauty may be an enjoyable event, but he knows himself the best. Given his reputation, the other party might simply be speaking out of politeness despite being repulsed by the idea. Not only so, he would have to suffer from the envy of others. If so, he would have to come up with ideas to deal with her pursuers. However, there are still many things that he needs to do at the moment and he doesn't have the leisure for such matters. Just when she thought that Zhongxian could speak normally, she hears those words and feels a blockade in her chest again as the urge to go berserk surges through her. Many people had asked her out to eat, but she rejected them all. Yet, when she takes the initiative to invite him, she feels as though she is begging a stubborn elderly. Detestable. All right, since we have already eaten, if there's nothing else, I'll be making a move first. I still have many things to attend to. Oblivious to her rage, he waves and prepares to take his leave. Wait, I'm not done yet. Suppressing her anger, Shun by Ryu calms down her breathing and looks at him with her beautiful eyes. You might have resolved that difficulty in my stead today, and your occupation as a gourmet played a huge role in it, but in the end, it is still an unorthodox occupation. After all, a fighter should focus on his training. Fighters, upon cultivating to a certain realm, are able to survive without ingesting food, so delicacies do not have much use. Even if he is able to profit out of the occupation for now, it still isn't a proper path a fighter should be treading on. After interacting with him, she could tell that Zhongxian isn't as useless as the rumors make him out to be. It could be possible that he had devoted his efforts to studying food, that's why his teacher qualification examination results ended up horrendous. Upon such thoughts, despite her overwhelming anger, she couldn't resist advising him. All right. Knowing that she said those words out of goodwill, Zhongxian nods his head. Just as he is about to leave, rapid footsteps sound out from his back. Zhongxian, let's see where you can escape to today. Today, don't even dream about getting away, following which, a resentful voice echoes in the surroundings. 2 men and 1 beast block his path. They are Shongbin and Cao Xiong. At this moment, the 2 of them have a giant footprint imprinted on their face, the outlines of it clear to see. Half of their face are swollen red and blood trickles down by edges of their mouth. Not a single hint of their previous dashing and carefree look remain. This is especially so for Shongbin. His injuries from the morning have yet to recover and yet, he suffered another violent kick. At this instant, his mouth is crooked to the side and his lips look like two giant sausages, thus pulling him further away from the concept of handsomeness. He had planned everything out perfectly so as to look cool in front of his goddess. Who knew that not only would he fail, he even got beaten up to such a state and his connection with Hongtian Pavilion was severed as a result. If things go wrong, he might even be chastised by his grandfather. How could he take this humiliation lying? The more he thinks about it, the angrier he gets. Thus, he charges up directly towards Zhong Xian. Shong Bin, what do you intend to do? Shunbai Yu didn't expect him to come in pursuit to cause trouble. She steps in front of Zhong Xian to shield him from Shong Bin. Shun Larosha, don't block my way. This is a personal grudge between Zhong Xian and me. It is one thing if he doesn't see her, but when he sees her shielding the infamous trash of the academy, Shong Bin is further provoked as his eyes slant to the sides and his mouth crooks further from the overwhelming rage. The intense envy clouding his mind makes him frenzied. He stares coldly at that young man and shouts, Zhong Xian, are you a man? If you're one, stop hiding behind a woman and have a fair duel to the death with me. Seeing how the fellow before him has lost his rationality, Zhong Xian widens his eyes and says, so what if I'm hiding behind a woman? This is a part of my capabilities. If you're capable, find one to hide behind as well. Shong Bin almost vomits blood. As long as it is a man, if someone insults him by saying that he is gutless and hides behind the protection of a woman, won't they feel embarrassed and humiliated such that they would rush forward to retaliate out of indignation? Why does common sense not apply to this fellow? How can he speak of something that should have been incomparably shameful so naturally and righteously? How can one be so thick-skinned? Shun Larosha, I'll be leaving these two for you to deal with. I still have something on, so I'll be taking my leave first. As a transcender, what has he never seen before? Thick-skinned? What a joke. In his previous life, in the information era, have you seen anyone who isn't shameless? He can't be bothered to deal with a problem which someone had taken the initiative to resolve for him. This isn't fear. Rather, it isn't a good time for him to be revealing his level of cultivation. On top of that, the Shong Bin's grandfather is an elder. If he were to be forced to a corner, Zhong Xian would have to waste precious time dealing with the problems that will ensue. Since someone is shielding him, he is also happy to be spared the effort. Seeing how shameless the young man is, Shunbai Yu is also at a loss for words. Just a moment ago, she was still fearful that he would be provoked by Shong Bin's taunt and duel with him. Now, it does seem that she was overthinking it. If this fellow could be provoked, even sows would be able to climb trees. Zhong Xian, hold it there. If I can't kill you today, I won't be called Shong Bin. Seeing the attitude of the young man, Shong Bin becomes even more enraged. Veins pop out from his temples and his face turns a shade of green. Seeing that Shunbai Yu has no intention of letting him through, he roars, sky-shattering lion, kill him. As long as you do it, I will bring you delicacies every day. Furthermore, I will give you the acupoint soothing pill that my grandfather promised me. As a tier 6 savage beast that has been tamed by a human, the sky-shattering lion is capable of comprehending human words. As his grandfather's pet, as long as Shong Bin is kept out of harm's way, it couldn't be bothered with his orders. In order to get it to make a move, he promised all kinds of benefits to him in an instant. Roar. Indeed, hearing his promises, the eyes of the sky-shattering lion light up. Savage beasts who have reached Pishua realm, unlike humans, are unable to use the flow of Junqi to break open their acupoints. They can only rely on the growth of their body to gradually pull up their strength. If it were to consume the acupoint soothing pill at this moment, with its effects, its strength would surely soar significantly. Acupoint soothing pill is a pill made specially for Fighter 6 Dan experts. It possesses the effect of soothing one's acupoints, thus allowing one to progress further in Pishua realm. At this moment, Shong Bin's strength has already reached Fighter 5 Dan Dingli pinnacle, just a step off from Pishua. Thus, Elder Shong Chen spent a huge sum to obtain this medicine so as to give him a boost. Initially, Shong Bin was reluctant to take it out. However, upon recalling how he was humiliated by a trash, he finds himself unable to suppress his emotions. If he doesn't get rid of Zhongxian today, he fears that he would be unable to uphold his dignity in the academy anymore. This is especially so for the goddess before him. She probably wouldn't even spare him a gaze. How can he tolerate such a situation? Shongbin, what do you intend to do? Killing a colleague in academy compounds is a huge crime. She didn't expect Shongbin to be so insane to order the sky-shattering lion to make a move. Shunbai Ru's eyes narrow. She wants to rush forward to protect Zhongxian, but is blocked by Shongbin instead. Panicking, she bellows at him. In the compounds, teachers are forbidden from killing one another. To do so is an infringement of the school rules, as well as a severe crime. Zhongxian was the one who wanted to kill me. To protect me, the sky-shattering lion retaliated. What I did was legitimate self-defense. What can the others say about it? Shongbin's eyes turn red from insanity. He roars, "Sky-shattering lion, what are you hesitating for? Do it." Shunbai Ru feels her heart turning cold. Too shameless. If he were to really use that as a front, with Elder Shongchen's interference within the matter, he might really get away with it. In fact, it is possible for him to escape punishment completely. Zhongxian could very well die here. After all, it is a Tier 6 savage beast. Ordinary Pishua realm experts aren't even its match. How can one who is the last in the teacher qualification examination withstand it? Roar. Just when she is still in a fluster, the sky-shattering lion roars and dashes over. Before coming into contact with it, its powerful aura creates a powerful gale that forces the surrounding grass and tree leaves to bow down to it. 9 paths, also known as 3 teachings and 9 paths, this is a real terminology used to classify jobs in ancient China. To put it simply, there are upper 9 paths, middle 9 paths and lower 9 paths in ancient China, and each of these paths refer to an occupation. For example, the top occupations in ancient China, the 9 occupations listed in the upper 9 paths, are emperor, saints, secluded masters, oracle, scholar, warrior, farmer, worker, merchant, and they are classified from most esteemed, least esteemed. Similarly, the middle 9 paths and lower 9 paths have their own set of occupations as well. The 3 teachings refer to Confucianism, Taoism, or Taoism, and Buddhism. Do note that there are different interpretations versions to the 9 paths, and most of them list Buddha as the first one. Chapter 37. Big Sister Spare Me. Zhongxian. Shunbai Ru tried to break through Shongbin's blockade to save him, but she was knocked back consecutive times. Shongbin's cultivation is on the same level as her. He might be spoiled due to his powerful backing, but his strength isn't false. Even if she possesses the strength to defeat him, she is still unable to break through his blockade within a short period of time, especially if he chooses to execute only defensive maneuver. I am the one who brought harm to you. Seeing how she is unable to save him, Shunbai Ru is filled with guilt. She thinks that the reason why Shongbin is dealing with this fellow, who was the last for the teacher qualification examination, is because of her. Otherwise, as someone of such high standing and the grandson of an elder, towards an infamous trash who has no background whatsoever, when there's no connection between the two, why would there be a grudge between them? Yet, after pulling him down into the mud, she is unable to save him. The guilt she is experiencing at the moment torments her painfully. Why is there no movements? Could it be that Zhongxian has already died? The more panicked she gets, the more incapable she is of breaking through Shongbin's blockade. With Shongbin blocking her sight, she is unable to view the situation over at Zhongxian's side. She can only hear complete silence in the surroundings, as though he didn't even struggle against the assault of the sky-shattering lion. There can only be one possibility. Before Zhongxian could retaliate, he was already smacked to death by the sky-shattering lion. After all, even she is unable to withstand a single blow from the Tier 6 savage beast, who is equivalent to a Pishua realm expert. Haha, he is already dead. It is too late for you to make a move now. Hearing that there is no movements behind him, Shongbin's eyes light up. He knows that the trash would definitely be unable to withstand a single blow from the sky-shattering lion. He laughs heartily out of excitement. Judging that there is no need to block Shunbai Ru any longer, he leaps aside. Zhong Xian. The moment Shang Bin leaps away, Shunbai Ayu doesn't waste time on him and hurriedly rushes forward. Just when she thought she would see a pool of fresh blood with a miserable corpse lying in the center of it, her slim figure suddenly freezes and she stares in a daze. This. What happened? Initially, Shang Bin thought that his goddess would burst into tears from the shock of the sight. However, upon seeing such an expression hang on her face, Shang Bin quickly turns around to take a look. With a single glimpse, his eyeballs widen into huge circles and he almost faints from overwhelming astonishment. He sees the incomparably ferocious sky-shattering lion, which had rushed towards Zhong Xian earlier to rip him into numerous shreds before, lying in front of Zhong Xian like a pug, licking his hands. Zhong Xian's other hand is stroking the head and ears of the sky-shattering lion and unspeakable pleasure appears on its face. The heck? What happened? Shang Bin is on the verge of tears. This sky-shattering lion is his grandfather's beast pet and it is extremely proud. Even for Shang Bin himself, just a simple touch would incur its fury, not to mention stroking its head. After taking possession of it from his grandfather, he had spent half a day of effort on it, feeding it numerous delicacies. Yet, this fellow doesn't even show the slightest bit of gratitude, disregarding his presence as he pleases. Such a proud fellow became a pug before Zhong Xian? You are here to kill him. To be lying before him and licking his palm, is this really alright? Shang Bin feels a dizziness spell working up, and he is on the verge of going crazy. Sky-shattering lion, what are you doing? Quickly kill him, he bellows. The sky-shattering lion doesn't move. It continues to lazy around, allowing Zhong Xian stroke his head freely. You. Quickly kill him. If you do it, I will buy you anything you want to eat from now on. Shang Bin roars anxiously. So noisy, make him shut up. Zhong Xian, who was stroking the sky-shattering lion, stands up and waves his hand. Roar. The sky-shattering lion stands up as well and glares at Shang Bin savagely. What are you planning to do? Frightened, Shang Bin immediately retreats several steps. However, before he could get far, the sky-shattering lion dashes forward and takes a sweep at him lightly with its paws. Peng! Before Shang Bin could react, he is sent flying backward like a kite that had its string snapped. His head knocks onto a giant tree and crimson blood fills his entire face. What exactly happened? You are my grandfather's beast pet. Shang Bin cries. This sky-shattering lion is the beast pet that his grandfather passed on to him to protect him. Logically, it should have listened to his words to deal with the outsider. Why did it listen to the words of an outsider to attack him? Peng! Before he could finish crying, another figure crashes onto the ground in front of him. He is Cao Xiong. When that fellow noticed the situation turning awry, he immediately turned around to flee. However, how could he possibly escape from the sky-shattering lion, a Tier 6 savage beast? He is sent flying back with a slap. Roar. After sending these two flying, the sky-shattering lion looks as though it has done something glorious. It walks over to Zhong Xian with a flattering look, as though wanting to be acknowledged for its accomplishment. Yuan, not bad. You did well. Zhong Xian pats its head. Roar. The sky-shattering lion nods its head quickly. It walks gallantly to the two lying on the floor, keeping a watch on them with a proud look, reminiscent of a responsible watchdog. Shang Bin and Cao Xiong, who were planning to escape, are on a verge of tears. Zhong Xian. You. How did you do that? Spectating the entire flow of events by the side, the dumbstruck Shunbai Ayu finally recovers and gazes at him curiously. How did I do it? Zhong Xian scratches his head. This sky-shattering lion is very easy to communicate with. Perhaps, it might be because I am more handsome. Handsome? Shunbai Ayu blinks and her slim figure staggers. The sky-shattering lion is a savage beast. To it, the term handsome should only be applicable to male sky-shattering lions, so what do you being handsome or not have to do with it? Besides, if one must talk about handsomeness, Shang Bin is much more dashing than you. All right. Farewell. Zhong Xian doesn't continue explaining and turns around to leave. Since the Library of Heaven's Path can peer into the weaknesses of a human, naturally, it would be able to peer into those of the sky-shattering lion as well. This fellow may seem extremely powerful, but in actuality, it has sustained quite a few hidden traumas. Otherwise, it couldn't have possibly willingly served as Elder Shang Chen's beast pet. The library has detected this flaw of it. Making use of it, Zhongxian casually solved some of the easier ones for it. As a result, the sky-shattering lion chooses to obey his commands obediently without the slightest hesitation. In comparison to Shongbin's promise, no amount of delicious food and pills can compare with a resolved hidden trauma. Of course, this involves his secret as well, so he can't possibly reveal the truth to Shunbai Ru. You don't go, you haven't explained the reason why the sky-shattering lion obeyed to your commands. Seeing him leave, Shunbai Ru quickly catches up. The more she comes into contact with this young man, the more formidable she finds him to be. He is a mystery that is becoming more and more difficult to comprehend. Being able to read so many books just by flipping through them, intentionally scoring a 0 in the teacher qualification examinations despite knowing the answers, realizing his identity as a gourmet through a meal and convincing a tier 6 savage beast to follow his commands easily. What that seems impossible in the eyes of others is accomplished so simply by this young man, leaving others staring in disbelief. How does he accomplish all these? Shunbai Ru is becoming more and more curious about this young man before her. Big sister. Oblivious to what she is thinking of, upon seeing her chasing him, Zhongxian halts his footsteps and says helplessly, I want to live a long life. I'm afraid that I might not live to the next day being beside you. Just spare me. Big sister. You are the big sister. Your entire family is big sisters. Shunbai Ru's face turns bright red. She is a beauty. She might be slightly older than Zhongxian, but she looks no different from a 17 or 18-year-old. Yet, this fellow addressed her as a big sister, thus causing her to go into a frenzy. Fine, I am the big sister. So, just let me leave. Zhongxian shakes his head in frustration. PFT. Upon hearing Zhongxian claim that he is the big sister, Shunbai Ru chuckles and says, Fine, you can leave. I will look for you tomorrow. Zhongxian. Chapter 38, Reprise Bell. It is a scene of chaos in Hongtian Pavilion. What happened? I have barely been away for a while and such a sight awaits my return. In a room, an elderly stares coldly at the kneeling manager Wu. He is the mastermind behind Hongtian Pavilion, Elder Hong Hao. Elder, it is like that. The grandson of Elder Shang Chen, Shang Bin, has been here. Manager Wu doesn't dare to conceal anything and discloses everything that had happened. This includes the affair which he swapped the drunk immortal with green crag brew. Wu Cho, how dare you? After hearing Wu Cho's words, Elder Hong Hao's face darkens and he angrily sends a kick towards him. Peng. Manager Wu is immediately sent flying backward. His face pales as he vomits mouthful after mouthful of blood. Elder, spare me. I do not dare hope to be forgiven for my crimes, but that fellow is even viler. To expose all of these in public and causing the reputation of our Hongtian Pavilion to be ruined, he obviously disregards Elder Yu completely. After doing such shameful things, you still expect others not to talk about them? Elder Hong Hao's face looks hostile, as though a violent storm is gathering on it. Manager Wu trembles uncontrollably. Changing the contents of the dishes to earn more profits is a decision he made at his own discretion. He thought that he had concealed it perfectly. Yet, he was exposed by that young man in public. Naturally, he feels great resentment against him. I'll give you 5 days to settle this problem thoroughly. I want the negative impacts to be reduced to the bare minimum. If so, I can consider not to pursue the matter of your corruption. Otherwise, don't even dream about getting away alive. Elder Hong Hao's eyes are cold like a blizzard at night. Standing up, he asks, also, what is the name of that fellow? Is he a teacher of the academy? If he had informed me discreetly, I might have rewarded him with a sum of fortune, but he chose to cause trouble in public instead, soiling the reputation of my Hongtian Pavilion. I will have a good look at him tomorrow to see who is the one who gave him such gut. Bellowing furiously, a savage aura fills the surroundings. It feels like a frontal assault by a wave of frost, causing one to shiver uncontrollably despite the warm weather. Fighter 7 Dan Tongxian Realm. This elder Hong Hao is a Tongxian realm expert. It is no wonder that he was able to vie for the position of the principal. Just his level of cultivation itself is already astonishing. It is Zhongxian Laroche. Manager Wu quickly says. Zhongxian? The one who was the last in the teacher qualification examination. Elder Hong Hao is taken aback. Hongtian Academy had never had a single teacher scoring at the very bottom of the teacher qualification examination throughout its centuries of history since its inception. Thus, even a person like Elder Hong Hao had heard of Zhongxian's name. That's him. Manager Wu nods his head. A trash would actually dare to trample on the dignity of Hongtian Pavilion? Excellent. Clenching his fist, a cold glint flashes across his eyes. A heavy murdering intent emanates from Elder Hong Hao. If the other party is a star teacher or an influential figure in the academy, he might have some hesitation over punishing him. However, since he is a trash, then, don't blame him for being heartless. Sigh, how troublesome. Returning back to his dwelling, Zhongxian massages the center of his eyebrows. He would have never thought it possible for so much trouble to evolve from just a simple meal. Forget it. There's no use pondering over it. I better spend my time thinking about how I can break into Pishua realm. Quickly, he dumps all excessive thoughts to the back of his head. Despite being a transcender, he knows that in this world, power reigns might. Only with sufficient power will the problems of one cease to be. He is currently at Dingli Realm Pinnacle, and to break through, he would need the cultivation techniques of Fighter 6 Dan. However, an ordinary teacher doesn't have the qualification to browse through the 6 Dan cultivation techniques of the academy. They can only jot down a copy of it with the approval of an elder. In the previous examination, he only had the strength of a Fighter 3 Dan. If he were to rush to an elder to ask for a 6 Dan cultivation technique now, he might end up being researched like a guinea pig. Many troubles will grow out of it. Furthermore, even with the approval of the other party, with just one copy, he is still unable to cultivate. Based on the first 5 Dan of Hongtian 9 Dan formula, this cultivation technique possesses too many flaws. Without the cross-references from numerous other cultivation technique to seek the correct cultivation method, there wouldn't be any results in his training even if he were to train non-stop for several years. To him, the most pressing matter at hand is to seek a huge pile of Fighter 6 Dan cultivation techniques and draw comparisons among them to deduce the correct cultivation method. I've heard that quite a bit of trading is done in Tianqian Royal City, and cultivation techniques are one of the goods that are being traded. It would solve quite a bit of problem if I am able to purchase a few 6 Dan cultivation techniques. Suddenly, upon recalling something, Zhongxian's eyes light up. Hongtian Academy is located in the capital of Tianqian Kingdom, Tianqian Royal City. Tianqian Royal City is an extraordinarily prosperous city. With numerous large commercial cities in here, all kinds of trade are carried out here. 6 Dan cultivation techniques may be rare, but it is still sold in numerous shops here. Furthermore, to Zhongxian, there isn't really a need for him to buy them. As long as he manages to flip through them, it would be as good as gaining possession of the secret manual. With the Library of Heaven's Path, the quality and price of the secret manual no longer matter. As long as there is sufficient quantity, he would be able to derive the correct path out of the innumerable errors, and the Heaven's Path divine art would be automatically compiled, thus allowing him to cultivate swiftly. It is still early. Let's see if I am able to get a few books today. At this point, Zhongxian stops hesitating and stands up immediately. The sun has just set and the nightlife has just begun. Since he is free anyway, it is a good opportunity to stroll through the commercial cities. Perhaps, he might find some useful items. Tianyu Commercial City is the largest trading market in Tianqian City. It is said that as long as one possesses sufficient money, he is able to buy everything he desires here. Stepping into the market, Zhongxian feels his vision blurring from the sight of the innumerable goods laid out before him. His previous self was just an ordinary teacher. His wages were low and he was treated poorly. As a result, he had never been to such a grand place before. Thus, Zhongxian finds himself incapable of identifying most of the goods on sale here. There are many small vendors in the commercial city. A vendor sits in front of each of these booths and all kinds of goods are laid out before them. Weapons, pills, herbs, armor, beast skin, beast pills. Almost everything that is required for cultivation can be found here. Just that, there are too many of them. It is difficult to ascertain which of them are of superior quality and which of them are of inferior quality. I might be unable to discern between the good and bad, but the Library of Heaven's Path might be capable of it. Such a thought flashes through his mind. Thus, Zhongxian immediately walks over to a booth. This gentleman here, what are you looking for? I have everything you need here and I guarantee your satisfaction with my goods. The vendor quickly welcomes his presence. I'll just take a casual look. Zhongxian smiles. He casually picks up an object in the booth. It is a circular bell of average size. This bell is specially forged by a blacksmith and has extraordinary abilities. It is on sale for just 50 gold coins. I can assure you that the price is fair. I offer the very same price to everyone passing by. If you're interested in it, I can give you a special discount. It'll be yours for just 20 gold coins. The vendor coaxes. Zhongxian doesn't respond to his words. Rather, he twirls the bell around his hand. Wang. The library in his mind jolts and a book appears in it. Reprise bell. It is able to generate the same tune over and over again, causing one to feel dizzy-headed. It is effective against Fighter 1 Dan. It is created by a One-Mo craftsman of Blue Cloud Workshop. It is made of Wujin metal. Flaws. Number 1. The duration required for the reprise sound to take effect is long, requiring at least an incense's time, making it an ineffective weapon in battle. Number 2. It doesn't differentiate in its attacks, the wielder will take damage from it as well. 15 minute indeed, it is possible. Zhongxian smiles. It doesn't matter even if he is unfamiliar with all these items. As long as he touches them with his hands and picks them up, the library would compile a corresponding book on it. Furthermore, this book details the history, composition, and all kinds of flaws of the item in question comprehensively. With just a single look, it is apparent to see if the item is valuable or not. Those who are unaware of the truth might just buy it with the vendor's previous offer of 20 gold coins. Only by looking at the contents recorded in the book does Zhongxian realize that this toy isn't even worth 2 gold coins. What specially forged by a blacksmith? Blue Cloud Workshop is an organization that specializes in the production of fake goods. Furthermore, One-Mo craftsmen are the ones with the worst craftsmanship of them all. Those who specializes in the creation of goods and handicraft are termed as craftsmen. They are classified into 9 Mo, with 1 Mo being the worst and 9 Mo being the best. How valuable can a creation of a 1 Mo craftsman be? With the library here, I won't have to worry about purchasing fake goods. Zhongxian chuckles. This world is similar to his previous one. With authentic goods come imitations, and given his previous ability of discernment, needless to say, the authentic ones, he might not even be able to tell the strengths and weaknesses of an imitation. However, with the assistance of the library, he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Just that, he needs to come into contact with the item for a book to be compiled on it. The number of items in this market total up to at least 10 million. If he had to touch every single one of them, wouldn't he tire himself to death? Besides, if he were to just look at the goods, he wouldn't attract much attention. However, if he touches everything he catches his sight on, it probably won't take long for the security enforcement team of the commercial city to think of him as a lunatic and drive him out of the city. Chapter 39, Frigid Sun Mother Grass. Right, do you sell frigid sun grass here? Shaking his head to dispel the additional thoughts in his mind, Zhongxian asks. On top of miscellaneous items, this vendor also sells some herbs. After finishing those books in the Compendium Pavilion, he has already found a solution to Zhao Ya's problem. With a pure yin body, she should cultivate a gentle and neutral cultivation technique. This way, the problem of the accumulation of yin energy should be solved. However, she has already cultivated a pure yin cultivation technique for a long time and the meridians in her body have already adapted to it. If an abrupt change were to be introduced, Her body might sustain a severe trauma and her cultivation will fall steeply. To prevent this from occurring, some preparations have to be made in advance. One of them is to nourish her meridians through medicinal herb. Frigid sun grass grows in cold regions despite favoring sunny conditions. As a result, the warm and cold spiritual energy contained within it clashes, causing the amalgamation of yin and yang, thus making it the ideal choice to nourish her meridians. Since he is in the commercial city now, it is a good time for him to ask around about it. Frigid sun grass? It is a coincidence that you ask this. Not to brag, but I can guarantee you that I am the only vendor in Tianyu commercial city that has this good. I procured them a few days ago from a dangerous region in Tianqian forest. I have a total of 10 stalks and each stalk costs 100 gold coins. How many do you need? The vendor smiles and turns around to take out a box. Opening it, a few fresh-looking plants are revealed within. White flowers with red stems and leaves. Let me take a look first. Zhongxian only knows about the frigid sun grass through books, so he isn't very familiar with it. He reaches out to grab a stalk and places it on his palm. Wang. The library jolts and a book appears. Frigid sun grass, harvested from an unknown valley 200 kilometers into Tianqian forest. Aged 2. Flaws. The name of the herb is written on the cover of the book and the location of its procurement and its flaws are recorded in it. It is frigid sun grass. This fellow isn't lying. Confirming that there is no mistake with the name on the book, Zhongxian knows that the vendor owner isn't lying to him. This is the authentic medicinal herb, so he nods his head. Just when he is about to speak, his eyes happen to glance on the interiors of the box. Why does this stalk of frigid sun grass look slightly withered? Could it be that your procurement method is incorrect, causing its death? There is a specific method to harvesting medicinal herbs. If the method is wrong, the medicinal properties of the herb might be lost, causing its price to dip steeply. The stalk of frigid sun grass he is talking about is withered thin and slightly yellow, seemingly immature. Furthermore, it doesn't look fresh at all. With a shriveled large head, it seems as though it would die at any moment. This gentleman here must be joking. I depend on this for a living, so how could I possibly get it wrong? This stalk of herb isn't of good condition from the very start. It was already like that when I procured it initially. If you want it, I will sell it to you at half price, 50 gold coins, the vendor says. UN. Zhongxian picks up the yellowish and withered stalk of frigid sun grass. Wang. Frigid sun mothergrass, the origin of other frigid sun grasses. Harvested from an unknown valley 200 kilometers into Tianqian forest. Aged 15. Flipping open the book, the name of the herb and details on it is recorded. Frigid sun mothergrass? Zhongxian's eyes light up. He has read it on the books previously. This extremely valuable and rare herb is the core of all other frigid sun grass. If this herb were to be used in the creation of a medicine, its effectiveness would at least be 10 times of the latter. He didn't expect to stumble upon this treasure when he was just casually looking for herbs. Furthermore, this herb is 15-year-old. Just by this itself determines the extraordinary worth of it. If Zhao Ya were to use the frigid sun grass to nourish her meridians, she would still require the augmentation from several other means to successfully change her cultivation technique. However, with this stalk of frigid sun grass, the problem can be easily solved. She wouldn't even need the augmentation from other means. This is the most suitable medicinal herb for her, no questions about it. Wrap this stalk up for me. Although he is agitated, his face still remains expressionless as he casually passes it back to the vendor. If the other party realizes that this is a mother stalk and not a sickly one, its price would instantly shoot up by 10 times, and even so, he might still be unable to purchase it from her. As a four-halves youngster who grew up in the modern civilized world, he wouldn't do himself any injustice when he is able to profit out of something. For halves refer to dream, moral, culture and discipline. Originated from Deng Xiaoping in 1980. 50 gold coins. Seeing how well-dressed the young man seemed to be, he thought that he would purchase a few stalk. He didn't expect that he would just buy a sickly one. Pursing his lips, he wraps it casually, the warmth from before absent on his face. Even a vendor judges his own customers when doing sales. The person before him isn't even willing to buy a good medicinal herb, thus making it clear to see that he is a poor bloke. Since that's the case, it would just be a waste of time to try to coax him otherwise. All right. Grabbing the herb, Zhongxian reaches out to his pocket and awkwardness immediately shows on his face. Due to being too absorbed in the library, he forgot about the matter of money. As a low-level teacher, his wages are low. Furthermore, due to scoring a 0 in the teacher qualification examination, his fortunes were penalized severely. In other words, he doesn't even have 10 gold coins in his pocket, needless to say, 50. Is there anything wrong? Sensing that something is amiss from his face, the vendor asks. Cough cough, can you sell it to me for 8 gold coins? Zhongxian counts the gold coins he retrieves from his pocket and there are only 8 of them. 8? You must be joking. Since you didn't bring any money, why are you trying to buy anything at all? Seeing the few coins placed on the other party's palm, the vendor owner is on the verge of doing a somersault and crashing to the floor. He had met with miserly customers, but he had never met with such a miserly one, trying to buy frigid sun grass with just 8 gold coins. You must be dreaming. Even if this stalk is sickly, it is still worth far beyond this price. Snatching back the herb, he waves his hand with an annoyed look. Scram if you don't have any money. I don't have the effort to be arguing with you over this. Cough cough. It is true that I didn't bring sufficient money, but are you sure that you don't want to sell it to me? Seeing the attitude of the vendor, Zhongxian shakes his head. Nonsense. Even if this stalk looks awful, it still contains medicinal properties. At worst, it can still be sold for 30 or 40 gold coins. Yet, you offer me 8 gold coins? What a joke. Hurry up and leave, or else I will be calling for the security enforcement team. Seeing how this fellow is reluctant to leave despite being broke, he angrily chases him away. In order to prevent people from coercing others to buy or sell goods, as well as to deter troublemakers, most large commercial cities operate a security enforcement patrol team in their perimeter. As long as one calls out for them, they would appear quickly. Even if you are a Fighter 5 Dan Dingley realm expert, you will be chased out of the commercial city instantly. Furthermore, to make a move on the security enforcement team means to make a move on the entire commercial city. Normally, no one would have the guts to stand up against them. Upon seeing how this fellow refuses to leave despite not possessing sufficient money, he is certain that he is here to cause trouble. So, he opens his mouth to call for the security enforcement team. Don't call for the security enforcement team, I'm really interested in buying it. Zhongxian interrupts him. With a calm and steady look, he chuckles softly. I might not have sufficient money, but I'm not here to cause trouble. Do you believe that if I were to open my mouth, not only will you be willing to sell it to me, you would even offer to give it to me for free? Give it to you for free? Are you still in the midst of your sleep? The vendor didn't expect the poor bloke to say such words. He looks at the young man before him with an attitude as though he is looking at an idiot and sneers coldly. If I were to really give it to you for free, I'll call you grandpa. In his opinion, this fellow must have a screw loose. Not mentioning how he doesn't bring sufficient money to purchase goods, he even thinks that he would give it to him for free. I am not insane, why would I give it to you for free? Who do you think you are? Call me grandpa? You don't need to do that. Zhongxian shakes his head. He looks at the vendor with a bright smile and says, you will give it to me for free because I said so. If you doubt my words, I will take 2 steps. Cough cough, let's see what will happen after I give you a punch. Chapter 40. The master is here. The master is here. Give me a punch. The vendor doesn't know what the young man is up to. Indeed. Zhongxian nods his head. You are trying to make a fool out of me. Seeing the serious look on the other person's face, the vendor's rage comes surging out and he sends a fist towards Zhongxian. He had seen crazy people before, but he had never seen such a crazy person. You still want me to let you give me a punch? Why don't I beat you up to death instead? Putting all of his strength into his punch routine, the wind rustles from the force of his blow, thus exposing his level of cultivation. Fighter 3 Dan Jinchi Realm Primary Stage. Not bad. Smiling faintly, Zhongxian moves his body slightly to dodge the attack. He has already reached Fighter 5 Dan Dingli Realm Pinnacle. Naturally, the strength of a Fighter 3 Dan primary stage cannot hurt him. Yuan. He assumed that the young man is here just to cause trouble, so he thought that he would just be a delinquent without cultivation. However, upon seeing him dodge his attack easily, he immediately realizes that the young man's cultivation is on a higher level than his. The vendor stops as bewilderment overwhelms him. A fellow who has at least reached the level of Fighter 3 Dan can't possibly be really trying to buy stuff with just 8 gold coins. If I'm not wrong, you are from Xia Pingyi. The moment the vendor made a move, a book on him is compiled in the Library of Heaven's Path. Getting what he had intended for, Zhongxian smiles faintly. How? How did you know? The vendor is taken aback. Xia Pingyi is one of the provincial cities around Tianxian Royal City. It isn't a large city and there are at least 80 of such cities around the capital. The vendor is puzzled by how Zhongxian could pinpoint it out accurately. He couldn't resist looking down to study his appearance, but there doesn't seem to be any defining traits on him that would reveal his place of origin. It doesn't matter how I know it. Zhongxian activates this acting cool mode. He looks at the other party once again in a calm and dignified demeanor. Half a year ago, you probably met with danger in Tianxian Forest and was bitten by a cold bamboo snake. Although you managed to escape with your life, your kidneys were damaged. If I'm not wrong, when you are doing that, it is difficult for you to showcase your masculinity. You, the vendor staggers backward. His eyes are widened so large that they are on the verge of falling to the floor. It is true that he was bitten by a cold bamboo snake in Tianxian Forest half a year ago, after which, the latter half of Zhongxian's words are true as well. However, other than him and the lady from the brothel, he had never talked about it with another person. How did this young man know about it? Could it be that he is a seer? Someone who is capable of divining the future? The vendor is still filled with disbelief. Why? Are my words wrong? Seeing the expression on the other party's face, Zhongxian knew that what was written in the Library of Heaven's Path isn't wrong. Thus, he expresses a look of pity and says, if you find what I have said inaccurate, I can do without the medicinal herb and leave right now. However, your only chance at treating your problem will disappear as well. Sigh, you won't be able to be a man from now onward. Don't blame me for not reminding you now. Gongzi, don't go. Gongzi-gentleman hearing that the other party is capable of treating him, the vendor's body trembles in agitation as he hurriedly takes a step forward. Can you really treat me? To a man, nothing is more pathetic than losing one's potency. These days, he dares not respond to the invitations of his friends, afraid that his problem would be exposed in front of them. Suffering silently, he had looked for many different physicians, but they all came to the same conclusion, that his symptoms are hard to treat and the only solution is amputation. He dares not believe that a casual buyer would point out his problem directly and even claim that he is capable of treating it. I won't force you to believe me. However, since I am able to tell what is wrong with you, naturally, I have my own ways to treat it as well. Zhongxian declares. Gongzi, I plead you to help treat me. As long as you can treat me, not just that single stalk of frigid sun grass, you can take all of my herbs. The vendor lunges forward in a panic, the plea in his eyes clear to see. There are too many incredible people in the world. The words of the young man are logical since he is able to see through his problem. He definitely has a way to treat it. Besides, he has no choice to grasp onto every straw of hope that he could find. After all, this concerns his future happiness. Yuan, you were bitten by the cold bamboo snake. This creature inherently possesses cold attribute. When you were bitten by it, cold energy erupted into your body, causing you to lose your physical function. Furthermore, it is unable to dispel by any medicinal herb, thus even quite a few apothecaries will find themselves helpless before it. However, what is bizarre about this snake is that even though its entire body is cold, its gall is warm. As long as you find another snake, kill it and consume its gall, you are able to expel the cold energy from your body completely. Your damaged kidney would gradually recover and you would be able to showcase your masculinity as a man once more. Zhongxian says. There are many antidotes to the poison of the cold bamboo snake, but the best antidote of all lies on its body. Its gall is the crux to counteracting its unique cold energy. This is written on one of the manuals in Hongtian Compendium Pavilion. Upon the thought of cold bamboo snakes, this information pops up into his mind. This is also precisely the reason why he only mentioned the gall bladder of the cold bamboo snake. Otherwise, with the Library of Heaven's Path capability of displaying innumerable flaws, there is a multitude of remedies he could provide him. He need not specifically choose this one. Eating the snake gall of a cold bamboo snake? The vendor is still in a state of disbelief. So simple. If this is true, why did none of the many physicians he had visited say so? There should be cold bamboo snakes on sale in this commercial city. If you doubt my words, you can buy one of them and try it right now. I will only leave after we verify it. Zhong Xian says. Medicinal herbs aren't the only things on sale in Tianyu Commercial City. There are also all kinds of treasures, savage beasts and animals. Cold bamboo snake is one of the lower-tier savage beasts. Although it contains lethal poison within it, it can be used in concocting medicines, so there are people selling it here. Fine, wait for a moment. After hesitating for a moment, the vendor turns around and leaves. A short moment later, he returns with a cage and a cold bamboo snake is coiling around in it. As a Zhenqi realm fighter, as long as he is prepared, killing a cold bamboo snake isn't a difficult task. It didn't take long for the snake gall to be extracted. Without any hesitation, the vendor swallows it directly. Yuan. Soon, the vendor's eyes light up. The vendor seems to have already gotten an answer to whether the remedy works or not. I thank Gongzi for your help. These frigid sun grass are all yours. With his eyes glowing with excitement, the vendor nearly kneels down in gratitude from the joy surging through him. This was a problem that had been plaguing him for a long time. In fact, there was even a period when he didn't want to live anymore. In order to treat this deficiency of his, he spent several years of his savings and never would he expect for it to be treated just like that. See, I didn't lie when I said that you would give them to me for free. Zhong Xian helps himself to the generous gifts of the vendor and grabs the box filled with frigid sun grasses. Knowledge is a type of wealth as well. It is natural for Zhong Xian to receive some compensation from the vendor after solving the illness that was plaguing him. Gongzi, I apologize for my inadequacy for not realizing your capabilities. I beg for your forgiveness. The vendor scratches his head in embarrassment. Just a moment ago, he was still declaring resolutely that if he were to give the frigid sun grasses to Zhong Xian for free, he would call him grandpa. Never would he expect for Zhong Xian's words to truly come to be. It's nothing. Zhong Xian casually waves his hand to show that it was a small matter. Just as he is about to leave, a crowd of people suddenly dashes forward, their faces red from agitation. Quick, Master Mo Yang is here. One would be able to prosper through the guidance of Master Mo Yang. This is an opportunity not to be missed. This time, as long as it is a treasure Master Mo Yang appraises for me, I will buy it no matter how much it cost. Indeed, I felt regretful after missing that opportunity by the previous time. The crowds discuss as they ran over. What is happening? Seeing how the crowds are agitated as though a star has arrived, Zhong Xian is puzzled. Master Mo Yang has come. Even the eyes of the vendor are glowing with excitement. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.